this size of a
Oh, wow.
Deora. This is a solid epoxy.
Oh,
And you
no.
can see the size of it. But
Yeah.
what's interesting is when you look at the size of the Deora, I'll show that one from the Peterson. If you look at the size
Oh, wow.
difference, it's like much smaller, right?
Whoa, yeah.
So
Wow, that is a
Nathan's
lot
idea
smaller.
was it's about 3/4 the size. Nathan's idea was this car should be about the size of a Porsche, and we'll use a Porsche drivetrain. And that's how it was originally designed. So 64 scale, that small 20% difference doesn't really show much, right? In 64 can be 64-ish. Motorcycles are not 64 when they're in the
They're giant.
They're giant. And the monster trucks are miniature. And the regular cars are regular size. So
hello and welcome to the Square Corner podcast. I'm your host, JayCee Squared, and I will be interviewing guests from the Hot Wheels community and beyond. Today's guest I have with me is none other than a former Hot Wheel legend who got not only to work on the Twin Mill to be made, but also the Deora 2. It's Carson Lev. Welcome onto the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, Justin. How are you doing? Happy to be here.
I mean, just talking to you is amazing. If people don't know who you are, you're pictured with Chip Foose with the Deora 2. I mean, in that legendary photo, y'all are holding the 1/18 scale as well. For just people that may have seen those photos, it probably was like, who's the other guy? This is him. This is the other guy. So yeah, I guess, bring us through your journey and your background. Just in general terms, how did you get started in all of this?
Yeah, it was interesting. I grew up in Southern California, and it still is kind of at the time hotbed for hot rods and custom cars and painting and engine builders, chassis builders, all that stuff. And I was at the drags all the time. It was right down the road from me. I grew up in Lakewood, and the Lions drag strip was right down the street. My mom used to drop me off on Saturdays when she worked overtime. So I met a lot of guys like Mickey Thompson and Ed Iskandarian and Snake and Mongoose, who we've talked about in the past when I was 12. So it was fun bringing them back. So,
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, and I'll try not to make this into a Shaggy Dog story, but the funny thing is my doctor had a Dino Ferrari. And I was in gymnastics. I was a little accident prone, lots of breaks and bones and stuff. So every time I would see my doctor, I'd go check out his Dino Ferrari. So I thought the fast track to getting a Dino Ferrari was being a doctor. Started out with a pre-med, undeclared major, and went on rounds with my family doctor and realized that job stunk. But all during this time, I was still doing a lot of graphics, lettering. I did drawings all the time. So I was kind of this right brain, left brain kid. I had the science and analytical side of medicine, but I was drawing and painting and doing race cars and doing illustrations. And the two kind of came together when I was in college and changed my major, and I went into industrial design. So I ended up designing medical equipment for a number of years, CT scanners, heart bypass, blood filtration, respiratory products, but was still doing cars and trucks and race cars. And so, it depended on what day you saw me. I could be working on a CAT scanner. I could be lettering a race boat. So got into technology through that with Pfizer. Got into 3D modeling, CAD modeling. When Pfizer decided to get out of medical products, I started a product development firm with some other people from Illinois called Compression Engineering. And it used computer technology to advance and make products quicker and faster and better. My big client was Mattel and the Mattel division. So when that business didn't go the way I thought it was going to go during the .com craze, I got out just in time, thankfully. And Mattel made me an offer, but it wasn't Hot Wheels. Everybody thinks I was Hot Wheels the whole 10 years. My first almost 2 years was the Disney Entertainment division, because Disney Entertainment, we did every game, puzzle, toy, action figure game for all the Disney movies from Bug's Life, Lion King, Pocahontas, everything. And that's a fast schedule. Wow. So we would go from a sketch or a storyboard or a concept art they gave us, and in 8 weeks have a prototype piece, a molded piece in their hand, from CAD to engineering to assembly. And so it was a fast track. When I was offered that job, and I'll mention his name, I always do, his name was Gene Ensley. Gene was in charge of worldwide engineering. Great guy, great mentor. That's another thing we'll talk about later, is I really am a fan of being a mentor and having a mentor. When Gene hired me in at Mattel to run the Disney Entertainment division, he said, look, I know you're a car guy. The Hot Wheels job is probably going to be available in a year or two. There's some rumblings about some changes. So sit tight, because you'll probably get that job. And sure enough, about 2 years later, I was given the director of design position for Hot Wheels. So long story about how I got there, because it was not a straight path.
That's pretty good. But I mean, I know you had said before that it was just sort of like it was just like a calling though to go into finding that, you know, you would. I think you told me maybe that you hang out with the Hot Wheels guys at the design center.
Yeah. So I knew Larry Wood from early times, the car club here in California, before I ever went to Hot Wheels. When I was still in the medical field, I would see him at car shows and stuff. We both had hot rods and stuff, and I would see him quite a bit. And I knew Larry's a great guy. He and I have a great time. And so when I was in the Disney Entertainment division, out on the design center dock, the loading dock, they had a bench that we ate lunch at. It has all the stickers. You go to the races and you get the stickers. So this bench was covered with stickers. And so instead of eating in the tower, you know, the corporate formal tower, I'd run over to the design center where there was also a cafeteria and sit down on the bench and have lunch with those guys. And so, so I knew those guys before. So when the job came up, it was kind of a funny story. Gene had told me it might become available, but I found out from Larry. Larry said, look, there's going to be a change. The director's leaving. The director's open. He said, we're going to make the pitch for you. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, me and 4 other guys are going to walk into John Handy, who's the senior VP of design, big time guy, and recruit you. So my claim to fame, if anything in the world, is I got recruited to be Larry Wood's boss. So they went in and said, there's this guy in Disney Entertainment. We need him in Hot Wheels. He's a car guy. He grew up in car culture. He knows all these guys. He's a designer. He's a fabricator. He's a painter, pinstriper. He's an engineering guy. We want this guy. So I got recruited to be Larry Wood's boss. But I always qualify this and say the same thing. I'm no dummy. I know we all worked for Larry.
Yeah. That's pretty great. That's a fun story.
Yeah.
So what is it like, you know, what was your pitch in order to get in as well? Because I think you told me you had an interview with John.
Yes.
And in that interview, you had said a particular thing during the interview.
Yeah, I guess you should always be careful what you say during an interview. So John had been talking to me, and Larry had been mentioning it was a week or two process to go through the board has to approve director and above because it's a publicly traded company, and they have to do their vetting and background. And everybody liked me, and I knew them, and I'd been hanging out with the Hot Wheels guys, so they knew me, and I went to the Hot Wheels conventions a couple times. So I went through the interview, and Larry and the 4 guys who recruited me were there in the beginning. And then they walked out. It's just me and John Handy. We talked about the design, the project, the budget. So back in those days, the collector division was doing all the Formula One teams, NASCAR, 24 of the NASCAR teams, drag racing, Harley Davidson, Ferrari had exclusive worldwide rights on Ferrari. So we had quite a portfolio, mostly licensed products, and had the 18 scale, the 43rd scale, the 2-car sets, the 4-car sets, the single packages. We had probably 14,000 SKUs back in the day. I mean, SKUs the stock keeping unit, meaning each individual product. So at the end, we talked about it, and John said, "Okay, great, the job's yours. Do you have any more questions?" So this is where it got interesting. I said, "Yeah." I said, "John, whatever happened to the twin mill?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Why would you screw up a perfectly good interview?" I go, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, John, that twin mill's sitting in the back. It's laying under a tarp. It's rusting, rotting away because the twin mill was being built for I believe it was the 25th or the 30th anniversary. I can't get my dates right. For one of the anniversary years of Hot Wheels. And Boyd's, who was building it with Chip Foose, went bankrupt. And so Chip called Larry and said, come down here and rescue this thing because tomorrow the bank's putting a chain on the gate here. No one's going to be able to come in. There's no pink slip on this car. There's no registration. It's going to be hard to prove you own it. So they went down. Larry got a ramp truck, went down there, and there was some pictures I sent you. They went and rescued the twin mill. But that was 18 months before I was brought in. So that thing sat behind the design center with a tarp over it. The tarp got torn. The engines got water. We had to toss the engines. The epoxy body got ruined. Had to fix that. It just was rotting away. And so I made the pitch back to the statement I made to John. Well, what happened to the twin mill? He goes, well, it's just sitting in the back. I said, John, that's, for those that are Hot Wheels fans, which I was and still am, so that was the first originally designed Hot Wheels. In the first couple of years, 68, 69, 70, they were, Mustangs and Chargers and Camaros and, the Beatnik Bandit or Silhouette or Tognotti's T, called the Hot Heap. They weren't, design cars. They were about replicas of real cars. And so when Ira Guilford was hired out of the Corvette studio, Ira's a great friend, love Ira, he designed this car called Twin Mill, meaning 2 motors, big wheels in the back, kind of Corvette-ish nose. And it was really the first originally designed Hot Wheels car. So to me, if you were going to, put a chronology on this thing and a you are here kind of dot, that's the dot when Hot Wheels embodied speed, power, performance, and attitude, as they used to say.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I love that tagline.
I love it.
But so I made a big pitch, and so John said, fine, it's your project. Get it built. I said, okay, cool. What's my budget going to be? He goes, oh, you don't have a budget. I go, how am I going to build without a budget? He goes, well, Smarty Pants, you're the one who asked, so you figure it out.
That's hilarious.
So
Oh my
I figured
gosh.
out a way to get it built because now I had started a new job with a giant axe hanging over my head, you know?
Oh man. So I can't get over this enough is that I think fans are going to be wondering first of all. So the twin mill is just being built and they get a mold on it and I'm going to show these pictures for those that can see it on YouTube. It's youtube.com/JayCee Squared, JayCee Squared. And so you can see that the twin mill is just being, white fiberglass, nothing painted or anything. It's got 2 motors on it, and they didn't do anything with that. I'm so shocked. And then you come in and you're like,
yeah, when Boyd
let's do something.
There really wasn't another fabricator or shop like Boyd's back in the day who could do turnkey cars. And really, when you think about it, that's a show car. And most of the show car builders, the place we ended up taking it to, most of the work is called Karen Industries. Show cars are built different than real cars. Generally, the show cars you see for new model launches don't have real motors in them. They have electric motors because they're too complex to do everything, the interior of the body, and do a drivetrain and engine suspension. We wanted it to be a fully functional driving car, and it is a fully functional driving car. We'll get to that later about driving it at SEMA.
Right.
But yeah, it was a functional car, so that's why they put it in the back. And then also, no disrespect, but other than Larry Wood and a couple other guys in Hot Wheels, there weren't really car guys in that business. There were car designers. There were great marketing guys and great salespeople and great engineering. And a couple of the engineering guys, I'll mention his name, Tom Snedden, great guy. But there weren't really guys who built cars or knew how to build cars. And then when they knew they were going to miss the date, it's like, well, shelve that project. It's not going to happen until I came along and decided I needed to build the twin mill.
Well, thank God you did because it's amazing. I'm holding the the Real Riders one they made in I think 2018 or something that they painted the headlights on and everything.
Yeah.
It's I just find that Ira Guilford's I'm wearing the shirt too.
Yep, I see it.
I'm a huge geek about this. So the fact that it even got done is just crazy in the way that it's like, hey, you have $0. So what is it like to have $0 and be like, here's probably what would probably cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to fabricate a car like that, going off of Gotham Garage type numbers.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Well, I've often said in my career that one of the greatest motivators in life is fear. Fear will motivate you. Fear will cause attention and focus. When you're not fearful, anything catches your eye. When you're fearful, only the thing in front of you catches your eye. So I knew back in the day from conversations I'd had with people that back in the day when Bob Larrabee Sr. had Chuck, and I'm trying to think of Chuck's name, do the Tom Daniels Red Baron. He took the model kit and turned it into a real car. And then they did the... what were they called? The kind of cartoonish cars. I can't think of the name of them right now. But
the Wacky Racers or something?
That wasn't a Wacky.
I don't know.
It was like a Volkswagen bus with a big motor in it. I'll think of the name. Anyway, so they had built these show car promoters, and Bob Larrabee owned Championship Auto Shows. So Autorama, Motorama, all those guys. And they would tour them around to bring kids in, right? Because, you have kids at the car show too. And so I knew they did that. So I made a call to him. I explained what it was and what the situation was. And before I even got through it, he said, we'll build it. I said, well, do you know? He goes, well, and he knew Larry Wood. I mean, Larry Wood and he were good friends too. So he knew what was going on. So when he said he would do it, then I met with legal and I tried to carve out the best deal I could to make this favorable. So what we ended up doing was giving him a little bit of seed money, not a bunch, and giving him Hot Wheels Diecast limited edition premium cars. So they made the Hot Wheels twin mill in 3 different versions with his logo on the package. I've got one here for a Moon Eyes one that I could show. So kind of like a premium package, not the regular.
Okay.
Let's go to my buddy who's a Hot Wheels VW fan. I found it the other day. So we put Championship Auto Shows on it. He took them in. So those cars, we would give them, 50, 80, 100,000. They sold for like $20 each. So when you do the math, that'll pay to build a car.
Right.
And then we gave him the rights to tour it for a while because we didn't have the ability to tour it, but we had to have it done in time for SEMA. That was the thing. It's got to be done in time for SEMA. And so
Okay.
Bob took it to the first place it went. So I flew out and I looked at it at the back and did a big audit and kind of pulled it apart and spent a couple weekends kind of dissecting it when I could. We then shipped it to Barry Lobeck, who was a hot rod builder, had Barry do the hydraulic canopy and make the custom exhaust. And then he cleaned up a couple little issues on the inside with the torque flight transmission, the alignment, because it's a very interesting car with 2 motors going into a flywheel, pocket cut, firewall with a Bell Huey helicopter starter motor that's 36 volt. At the minute motors fire up, it switches back to 12 volt. And then a torque flight transmission hooked to a little tiny drive shaft to a rear end. I mean, it was the alignment issues were really, so Barry worked on that. And then it went to a company called Carron Industries, Carrin in Detroit, and Carron built show cars. Carron then did almost all the other work. Prior to my receiving it, the body was done by a company called Prototype Express. The cool little anecdotal thing there is that was owned by a company, Bruce. I think his last name was McFarland. And I went to school with Bruce at design school at Long Beach State when I changed my major. And so it was kind of funny. I had some connections already that I didn't even know were in it. And so Carron, got it all in shape, got it squared away, took the motors out. We had to toss the motors. The motors had so much water in them, they just rusted. And those were 502 big blocks. Now, the funny thing there, the original car was supposed to have Hemis in it because the model has Hemis. The Diecast one. The valve covers has Hemis. Well, Boyd Connaughton had a relationship with General Motors. And because they gave him 2 502 big blocks, he said, we're going to put big blocks into their Chevys. So GM Performance motors were in there. We tried to dress the valve covers to make it look more like a Hemi. It's one of those nuances, subtleties. The car had a lot of issues, both with the people that worked on it. There was a designer who was responsible for it who got kind of taken off the project. It just had a real checkered past just trying to get that thing going. So when it finally unveiled, we were stoked.
Yeah. So what is, how long did that take from, I guess from Boyd to, when it was finished at SEMA, how long is that? Maybe 2.5, 3 years or something?
I think total. I mean, it sat in the back for 18 months and it was literally another 1.5 years. You're probably looking at 3 to maybe 4 years.
Wow. Just for one car, car build.
But you think about it, everything on that car is unique.
Yeah.
From the wiring, the plumbing. So you look at the nose of that car, and the first question you ask is with those 2 big blocks, where's the radiator? So the radiator's there, but it's on an angle. So when you put a radiator on the angle, evacuating air and keeping it under prime and constant, pressure of water is very difficult. That's why radiators always sit upright.
Right.
And so lots of issues of getting things to work on that car on the inside. So that's why it took so long.
I see. And then what was it like, trying to pitch the car to go to SEMA? Because I'm guessing they didn't want it to go to SEMA just necessarily. It's like,
it really wasn't.
We're Hot Wheels.
It wasn't Mattel's idea to take that car to SEMA, and I did meet with some resistance. But again, I'll mention his name, John Handy, super supportive guy. As the head of design, he really encouraged collaboration and innovation and pushing the limits. So when I got the project, I spent a couple weekends dissecting, looking at it. We sent it out to Barry Lobeck. I met him out there and walked through the exhaust, made sure it was done right to the drawings. Went back to the office. About 2 weeks later, went to Carron, looked at the dissection, powder coating the chassis, all the stuff, put everything, basically exploding everything, put it on the floor, doing a check. What do we need? What do we have? What do we don't have? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I came back and I told John he wanted an update. I gave him an update. And I said, John, this car is so important to us. I think we need to take it to car shows and put it on the circuit. I said, Bob Laramie's going to, but I think we need to take it to Hot Wheels conventions, which we're just starting to get some recognition with Mattel. At first, they didn't want to pay attention to the collectors because they had a big enough business with the dollar cars.
Right.
I said, John, I want to take this to SEMA. He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, really? I said, yeah, but I don't want to just take it to SEMA and drop it down there like we're a toy company. I want to take it like our banner that we came up with, this world's coolest car company. We're the world's coolest car company. We define everything that's cool. We're the barometer of cool. So if it's a Hot Wheels car, it's the coolest car in the world. Any kid would rather drive that than a Ferrari. So let's make this cool. I said, So I'd mentioned in the previous interview that I was one of those guys that I never asked for everything all at once. I'm an incremental asker. So instead of asking you for $1, or $5 at the end of the week, I'll ask you for $1 every day for 5 days. because it multiplies my chance of success. so I didn't say anything at first. Once the car started coming along, then I said, look, I want to take this car to SEMA. And John laughed. He said, you're going to have to make that pitch to the executive team. So I made the pitch to the president and the VPs and made the argument that we define car culture. We're the world's coolest car company. That we should go to SEMA tongue-in-cheek. But the funny anecdotal facts I gave them is we produce more cars in a year than all the OEMs have made in their history combined. We produce cooler cars. Every 8-year-old kid wants what an 18-year-old boy has. Every dad wants his son to know how to throw a curveball and change a spare, change a tire, change a flat. So, Hot Wheels really became a brand that's kind of like, aspirational, not just reflectional, but what we aspire to be.
Right.
And to embrace that, we need to embrace that we're a car company. So they gave me the okay reluctantly to take it to SEMA. Once I got that okay and I started working on the booth design and everything, I went back to John Handy. I said, okay, so here's the deal. We can't just plop this car down the carpet. He goes, what are you thinking? He goes, great. Now where are we going with this? I said, I think we need to do like props and pieces as if we were a real car company. He goes, I'm missing your point. What are you trying to say? I said, well, what if we were an OEM? What if we were a Corvette? It wouldn't be the Corvette there. It'd be jackets and clothes and wheels and tires and wax and tools. He said, what do you think? And I said, can you give me the designers for 2 days? So back in those days, we had a big staff, like 40, 50, 60 guys just into product design, and another 20 or 30 in graphics and packaging. Said, give me those guys for 2 days. I'll put it on my budget. I don't care. I want all their designs for wheels, tires, clothing, tools, car wax, apparel, video games, whatever it may be. And so they did drawings, knowing full well, John knew then I wasn't just going to put pin-up drawings on the wall like a kid putting his schoolwork on the refrigerator, I went back to him and said, we need to build prototypes. He said, you're right, but it's coming out of your budget again. So we built prototype wheels, we did clothing, we did car wax, we did, all kinds of stuff. And so when the car debuted at SEMA, all my buddies in the industry I grew up with said, well, Carson, you didn't tell me you're making wheels. I mean, love this car, but when did you make these wheels? That's a prototype. Well, I'll license those right now, then car wax.
Wow.
So it turned into 4 deals done in 4 days, which is the side story of how I took over and kind of created the adult licensing side. So the car was a big hit. We'll talk about that in more detail, but the car was a big hit. When I came back, they basically had me running licensing and taking care of all those deals.
Well, that's sweet. And then I guess what were some of those deals? Because I know you sent me some of the mock-ups, and I was a kid when I saw one of those Hot Wheels wheels as a discount tire shop.
Yeah, Discount had the exclusive. So that was KMC. And here's another anecdotal thing. I'm lucky to be blessed with friends. That was Kevin. I always forget his last name. Went to high school with him. And Kevin owned KMC wheels. Might be Kevin Fitzgerald. I think it was Kevin Fitzgerald. He owned KMC wheels. And he came up to me and said, dude, you're sandbagging me. Why, you're here at SEMA. I'm here at SEMA. When did you start doing these wheels? I said, they're prototypes. He goes, I'll license those right now.
Wow.
The other one was Mother's Wax. We'd done wax. And the Mother's Wax program, when it ran, was hugely popular. My gosh. It was a bottle of wax with a specific, premium Hot Wheels Mother's car wax, Hot Wheels car.
Oh, okay.
Chip food with the graphics on it. Those came in the first set of 4, the second set of 4, and then there was a limited edition one that technically never got produced, sitting on my shelf over there. It's a car that they only made out of a production tool. They only made 6.
Okay.
I'll grab that. I'll tease you. I'll grab that in a minute and tell you that story.
Okay.
How that happened. We won't mention any names in that deal, but I'll tell you how the Mother's deal blew up. It got.
Oh, wow.
We had someone who got involved in that, and from the Mattel side, who should have never gotten involved in it, and it got blown up. And then we had a deal with BC Ethic for clothing, a company called Pit Pass. They made clothing. Troy Lee already had a deal going. We expanded that. PPG Paint came out with Spectre Flame paint, where you could buy Hot Wheels paint. It just grew and grew and grew. So I always knew there was something there, emotionally. Yeah. I was lucky to kind of create the emotion into a business, because I've always described most of my success in business has been more of an intrapreneur than an entrepreneur. So I'll build businesses from within businesses or expand brands. So businesses and brands grow in 2 dimensions. They grow by expansion, which is doing the same thing you're doing for a larger audience, or extension, doing a new thing for a new audience or a new thing for an existing audience. I like business extension. I think it gives you a broader footprint. It gives you more points of data along the line, and you can fill the niches in with cool products.
Yeah. I do enjoy that, and back in the 2000s, it felt like, as kids, I felt like we had so much more to look forward to, because there were so many different things coming out of Hot Wheels at the time. I mean, just the fact that they even built a real life Hot Wheels car in my lifetime was probably one of the coolest things ever. And how they're building so many more now and showing
Yeah,
them off.
nice
I
to hear you
mean,
say that because really, Larry and I really have always felt. You probably saw the Larry Wood interview that was on YouTube the other day. Larry and I always felt that this is a passion-based business. None of this stuff is necessary. It's 100% unnecessary, but it fulfills kids. And a Hot Wheels in your hand to me for a kid is like a talisman or a touchstone. You can project on it. You can aspire on it. I could be a tow truck driver. I could be a rescue. I could be a policeman. I could be a fireman. I could be a
oh
racer. I could
yeah,
be a monster truck
yeah,
driver. You put that in your hand, and it becomes a thing you project your wishes of your future onto. And to
right.
understand that from emotional, it gets into psychology. It gets into Maslowian and all these other things. But if you understand that, that's what Larry and I tried to do. We tried to represent and reflect all aspects of car culture, from lowriders to hot rods to tuners to JDM to monster trucks to Bonneville. We would every year just pick and choose the big sprocket. Okay, we'll do this, we'll do this, and we'll do this. And then we'd fill the gap the next year. We would just bounce back and forth. And then it gives you
Yeah.
a chance to play the themes that work. And when you're running more tests, you get more data and you get more feedback. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, you never get new data.
Yeah.
The trick is
I
to
can
remember
see
that
that.
once you get data, the minute you've got data, it's already old. So then we would start going to events and start looking for future things to do. So like drifting, we were one of the first companies to start doing that. The Honda deal we did. At first, Honda rejected my proposal to do Honda tuner cars. I went to Japan with the Tokyo Auto Salon, and met with the head of design in Japan, and I brought him this mock-up Hot Wheels car that was a tuner with spoilers and graphics with a company called Wings West that I
Yeah.
worked with. And the guy said, no, our cars had to be authentic and our the way they are from the factory. I said, do you realize in the United States right now, Hondas are the new hot rods for kids. That market,
Right.
so you're looking at 90s, that
Yeah.
became kids 32 Fords and 55 Chevys. And so they rejected it. I went back to management. We put together another prototype, put together a whole line. They reluctantly said, do it, but throw a couple of basic cars in the line. And it ended up being that 18-scale Honda was the number one selling 18-scale diecast in the world for 2 years straight. And it sat on Honda executives as a trophy when I went into their
Oh my
office years
gosh.
later. Like, oh, if I shown you this car, I go, yeah, that's what I did. So I did it with Dave
Wow.
Martis, Scotty Central from Wings West. Eric Cherney was an intern at the time who had a tuner
That's
car.
right. Yeah.
And so we had a young, aggressive group that wanted to just do stuff differently. So that's one of the things about the brand when you were a kid. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you saw that because we really worked hard because a lot of times you get management by rearview mirror. What did we do last year? What did we last year? We're like, if I drive a car fast enough, I don't care where I went. I don't need a rearview mirror. It's only where I'm going that matters.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to say that was the Civic SI, if I recall, the
Yes.
2001 Civic SI,
Yep.
which actually was never a released production car. The Civic, I think the SI version anyway, of the Civic never reached production in 2001. So, because I have a 2001 Civic as well, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's my car.
Nice.
So, that's sort of where Super Street and all that.
Yep.
I know
Super Street, that was who we worked
Yeah.
with from Hot Rod Magazine, or from Peterson
Yeah.
Publishing with Super Street.
Yeah, and it's crazy because someone has made a replica of that exact car.
Yeah,
and,
the real
and,
car
you
is
know,
still out there. The real car is still out there touring. It popped up at SEMA a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I know Donut Media found it,
Yeah.
or maybe not found it, but they did a bumper to bumper episode on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing still exists. Because there's one car that doesn't exist, which is that Ford Focus that y'all also did, which I'm gonna show on the screen for those that it's really cool looking, but it's gone.
That's a sad story. We worked with Mike Spagnolia, Super Sport. We worked with Troy Lee on the graphics and the design. We worked with numerous companies on that, and Ford, and they gave us that car as a dollar car.
Yeah.
But it was a crusher.
Wow.
And the deal was, one Ford executive said, well, if this program works well, Carson, we'll give you that car when it's done because we've never done this kind of thing before. And so many times when companies like Ford test these things, and I'll give you an analogy, they don't test it within their own corporate boundaries because if something goes wrong, they want to have plausible deniability. So back to the days of Disney when they started Touchstone Films. Touchstone's first movie was Splash because it was a little suggestive about this girl semi-clothed, swimming. There was just things that were a little outside the realm of Disney.
I
Disney
see.
created
Yeah.
that so they'd have plausible deniability that if it blew up, they could say, "Oh, that's a whole different division. We don't know that company."
Mm.
So Ford gave us that because they knew they had no relevance in the tuner market, none at all.
Yeah.
They're big block motors and drag racing, NASCAR, off road racing, all that stuff. And so we took it, and so that car became a huge success. It toured around. Then I found out the car couldn't be VIN registered because what happens, VIN registration has to go through all safety, and that car never went through full safety and homologation for airbags and restraints and seatbelts that retract and crash zones and crumple zones. Because when they build these first cars, they're just stamping steel. They're putting stuff together really quick.
Yeah.
We made that car in 18 scale and in 64 scale. And it was fun. When I would drive that to and from work, because I drove it for like a month, oh my gosh.
Man, that's so cool.
Everybody on the freeway is giving you the thumbs up and pulling over, taking pictures. And you stop at a traffic light, they want to get out and sit in the car. I mean, that thing was really a nice car.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the twin mill, because I know we got a little off topic, but it was still on topic with SEMA shows and all that. What was some of your favorite moments with twin mill at SEMA? Because I know you've said it on other podcasts, but for people that don't watch other podcasts, here is some of that information. This is the only one to watch, right?
So with the SEMA, I told you I kept building up to it. First, let's build the car. Okay, we building it. Then let's take it to SEMA. What are you going to SEMA for? So we go to SEMA. Then it's like, let's do designs. Okay, then let's build products. Now let's make a big giant PR. We did an unveiling. Probably the highlight, believe it or not, driving that car, and I'll tell you that story was awesome. The highlight to me was when we unveiled that car, because Ira Guilford had never seen his design in a fully functional full-size car. So that car was under wraps the first day, Monday setup, and Tuesday until 11 o'clock we did the press conference. And Ira was just chomping at the bit. And I was there with his wife, Barbara. I love those guys. Their son, Derek Guilford's a great guy. And so they were there. And so when we pulled that car back, you could see the little moisture in his eyes. Because as a designer, when you're designing toys or anything you design, for designers, the real frustration, I've been in design my whole career, the real frustration is the things that don't get built, and you don't get to see them. And when you do get to see it, that's pretty special. But when you do get to see it and somebody else worked on it, then your hope is, God, I hope they get this right. I hope they did it the right way. And not to be a knucklehead, but man, I was really strict about the interpretation of that design. I was like, this is, even though it was a toy car, any interpretation we take, any things, boundaries we push would be, what if it's a real car, not a toy car? And so seeing Ira do that. But a close second was driving the car. Once I got the approval for SEMA and hotel and travel and budgets and unveiling and press conference and media and handouts and diecast cars we handed out that were worth tons of money afterwards, I was given very, very strict instructions. You will not drive this car. You will not drive this car on the street. You will not drive this car. The car will go off the trailer and it'll go into the showroom. I'm like, oh, all right. I played a little trick there of like, I never really said yes, and I never said, okay, I agree. I kind of did the, I heard what you said. So we pull the car out. It comes off the trailer. I fire it up. I look at the guys. I go, we're going for a ride. And they're like, dude, you can't do it. You were told not. I said, you can follow me. We had a camera crew there. I said, you can follow me or not, but I'm driving this car. People are going to know. Because everybody, when they see it, that thing run? No, there's no way that thing could run. 2 motors, I could never drive. So we're going to drive it. So we pulled out the back of the exposition center, the exhibit center there at Las Vegas, and went down Joe Brown, turned, I think it's Paradise, went down to the Vegas Strip, took it down to the Vegas Strip. I passed 2 cops. I tell this story all the time. The first one, who's directing traffic, gives me the thumbs up, like, this is Vegas, right? It's a big car. And it sounds like a top fueler. The exhaust is unmuffled. It's 2 big blocks, blown, big blowers on it, an injection.
Definitely.
And so he gives me the thumbs up. So we turn the corner, and I'm coming down Vegas Boulevard, and there's a cop just about getting back on his motorcycle after writing a ticket. You can see him put his little ticket book in the back of the satchel in the back. He looks at me like, shakes his head like, and then he kind of like puts his hands up and turns his head like, almost like, I don't see this.
I don't want to see it.
I didn't. He kind of gave me a look like, what's the cheating code for driving stupid? What, how do I write this guy up a ticket for being stupid? And so that was funny. And so when we pulled it back in, it's overheating, it's puking out antifreeze, because
oh gosh,
the drive like that, right? Sitting in traffic and stuff. the first cop came back and talked to me. There's a great picture of me at the entry door waiting to get queue to bring into the guys asking, oh, he's a Hot Wheels fan, asking all kinds of questions about this car. He knew all about it. So that was...
Oh, that's sweet.
And when the SEMA show was over, we drove that car about 8 laps around the NASCAR track in Vegas and 3 times down the drag strip.
Gosh. I can't imagine, like... can I go back in time, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to go back to that moment, just see it myself, to see it roll. Because I know they had a piece of that in the Rides documentary of it going down the strip. Right. Which, gosh, that's insane looking, I bet.
Well, it's funny because they were running a drag, there was a drag meet going on. And they said, we're going to let you slide in between qualifying, but you don't let this thing overheat and puke. And it did. So I had to be really careful to get it off the track right away and get to the edge. But the guy said, look, you don't have a roll bar. It has not passed cert. You don't have a helmet. We don't know if there's any safety on this. So you can make the passes. We're not giving you a timing slip. We're not getting even saying this car was here. So one thing I would tell you, that car does great burnouts. Oh, my gosh. That car does burnouts. That car was, I wish one time they would let us take it to like a, Street Run Nationals or something, where they do the burnout contest or good guys, and let us just sit there and smoke those hides. Because it's a relatively heavy car. It's a full metal chassis. It's got 2 big blocks in it. The weight's kind of equally distributed between the 2. It's got the big meats in the back. It's got the torque fly transmission. It does great burnouts. It's not an easy car to drive because the canopy, you're looking out a window about this big, and right in front of you is the big blower scoop. And next to it is another blower scoop. So you kind of look at an angle between the 2 motors and kind of eye over the corner and then quickly turn your head sideways. I always said that for the people who live outside of main cities, they'll get this, that those scoops were like rural mailboxes. So regular mailboxes like this big. Rural ones are like gigantic. Yeah. You get your mail once a week, Those are rural mailboxes for scoops.
That's great. So I guess who did I forgot to ask this? Who did the livery design? Because I know it's just got the 2 Hot Wheels logos sort of in the first one.
That was based on the original design, and I'm a purist, so I had a conniption fit when they put the new logo, in which my buddy Mike Wilmot designed. Great guy. Mike's a wonderful guy. Mike's doing contract work for Hot Wheels again. That had the original Hot Wheels on it. It had 2 of them on the nose, kind of next to each other, flared out, and then on the side it just had the print. Twin mill in text in microgramma bold is the lettering style. It had the Hot Wheels logo next to it, and that was it. The funny thing is, if you've ever seen the license plates at the Hot Wheels designers, the license plate frame, it says "My other car is a Hot Wheels." So on the twin wheel, we put "This is my other car" because it says twin wheel. So
that's great.
That was kind of fun. The original design, we followed the graphics as was done on the model car. On the car, because that's what was done first. And so, I even had a little conniption fit when they rebadged and put a bunch of gobbledygook on it for the Superman Batman movie. It just, for me, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I've said it before. It's like, I work in branding, marketing, and, I understand the psychology and the brand stuff, and that's what I work on. And, that's part of the aspect of social media, projecting and the aspirational stuff, the reflectional stuff. I'm not a big fan of jeopardizing your long-term equity for a short-term entertainment property. I think equities in brands are built very slowly. So generally, businesses grow by transaction. Brands grow by transformation. So you talk about your youth. That was a transformation when you saw the car. You had to put a whole car. That's a transformation process. So transaction is I go down to the bagel store and I buy a bagel every day. Transformation is I go there, I like the music, I like the decor, my friends hang out there. It's a place for me that reflects who I am, and that's transformation. Yeah. And so, but I understand there's a marketing group there, there's a return on capital, there's a return on investments. They got to do what they got to do, but that doesn't mean I can't, have my little...
Just a little criticism.
Pseudo-purist, pseudo-intellectual response to it,
Right. So, and that actually goes into my next question, which is like, what were some of the net benefits of having twin mill back then? Being built after SEMA, because I think you said you did Gumball 3000 in it.
Yeah.
You did a couple of
Playboy Mansion, which is another story. I think the thing was, and not to brag, it wasn't just me; it was a lot of people. But it kind of, and I got a lot of credibility for this, and you need to give it to the group because it was everybody. It established credibility of a toy company as, wait, they're not just a toy company; they are car guys. They're real car guys, and so people started being proud to say, "Well, yeah, I designed Hot Wheels." it's not just a toy; it's a lifestyle. You know, it's a brand that encompasses passion and really licensors and companies that bought our products. So Walmart wanted to put it on tour. Target wanted to have it at their store openings. Hot rod shops wanted to use it. Drag racing wanted to have it at events. So it became kind of the poster boy for the brand, and it really created some new recognition. It really spawned what happened with the Hot Wheels Hall of Fame, which was another project that I worked on at the Peterson. I'm like, we need to have a clubhouse. Now that we've done this, we need, and that's another one that breaks my heart. We did a gigantic thing with the Deora and Jay Leno and a big Hot Wheels Hall of Fame and inducted people into the Hall of Fame like Richard Petty and Mario Andretti, had a voting process and had cars inducted, all this stuff. It was there for a year. The next year, it was barely there. And the third year, it was gone. And not to brag or say it's because of me, but that's when I left. There was really no one really arguing the point to let's do something different. People were just busy doing what they needed to do. And I always looked at, well, I'm going to get done what I need to get done so I can do the stuff I want to do. Yeah. And that's always been kind of my approach is, you know, you got to do what your job is and a whole bunch more if you want to stick around. And so the Hot Wheels Hall of Fame just fell apart. It happened the next year barely, and by the third year was an event where they just handed out stuff at SEMA and then it was gone.
Yeah. Well, it did resurrect. I mean, it's not called Hot Wheels Hall of Fame. It's called Hot Wheels Legends Garage, you know.
Right.
Or Garage of Legends.
Right.
So, I mean, luckily, things are coming back, sort of. We're coming into this, I guess, renaissance.
And you can thank a couple guys.
Renaissance.
Brendan Vitucci, Brandon Benedict, you know, are car guys. And not that the other guys aren't car guys, but they're old school car guys, I guess, you know. So, yeah, so it's nice to see the Legends Tour come back. And, you know, Brian invited me and my two grandsons to go to Hot Wheels the other day and tour the design center, take my 4 and 6-year-old grandsons who are totally Hot Wheels. I quit that job way too early in their eyes. And they had a great experience. We went in the garage and, you know, saw the track sets. They got to play with new stuff, and it was just a great day. And so, you know, it was a great experience. It was fun for me to go back because I had not been inside the design center proper probably since 2005, 2006 when I left.
Wow.
Changed a lot.
So, it is the 20th anniversary of Hot Wheels World Race. The reason that we really understand the twin mill is because they used it in this show. Yep. And so they packaged it in these Nitrox 2 bottles. They look absolutely gorgeous, you know. They have the Road Beast logo. It's probably my favorite version of twin mill, and I'm extremely biased on that. Mm-hmm. And I gave one to Dave just recently to celebrate, you know, because he obviously is driving it now, taking it to shows and with the rest of that team. And, you know, with this car, you know, y'all went and did for the 35th anniversary, which is now the 20-year anniversary of the 35th anniversary. Y'all did Deora 2.
Correct.
And I know you talked about it a little bit, but, man, I mean, this is our car. You know, this is the Wave Rippers. It's, I guess, tell me what exactly, when Chip Foose came with the twin mill, you know, I think I watched or read an interview with you. And it was, you know, Chip Foose helped work on Twin Mill. So let's go back to him and get Deora 2 done. Did y'all know the movie stuff was going to come and the comics and all that? Or did y'all just say, hey, we're going to do the Deora 2, and maybe that was supposed to influence the comics later on? I'm just curious about that.
I think what happened was once some of us, not just me, started pushing the boundaries of how the brand was expressed, not just through Walmart, not through Target, not through collectors, but through media, and new media was catching on, and, you know, HotWheelsCollector.com site was growing, conventions were getting bigger and bigger. There was more opportunity then for, you know, direct to video, you know, video episodes, episodic telling of the story, where you can now break down that story into episodes and engage kids and reflect to them and speak to them. And so it wasn't at the time that we started the Deora 2 that really was brought up to me. But from what I understand, they were playing with those ideas already. So marketing was looking like, what are the new methodologies of expressing this brand? What are the new channels of media that we can use? Do we own that channel? Do we have a HotWheels.com website, you know, site, videos, games, entertainment? What do we have? What can we build? And so it was kind of convenient convergence of all of our projects that became the logical, you know, linchpin for all of it. And I meant to get it. I should have brought it upstairs in my office. Maybe I'll take a break. I'll bring the original Deora. I told you the scale of it. And then I'll bring the Diecast one. So tell me a convenient time to break away, and I'll grab it. Only because it's an interesting anecdotal story of the development of the Deora 2.
That'll definitely
and
be
how
cool.
it never would have happened from the original design.
So, okay. Actually, why don't you just go get
Okay,
it now?
I'll get it right now. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that works.
Well, while Carson goes and gets those amazing Deora 2 prototypes, let's talk about this podcast's main sponsor, Lab 24 Coffee. For my personal coffee need, I only get the best. And the best is Lab 24 Coffee. They provide a premium experience for car enthusiasts. The blend I've chosen is the classic, seen here, which harkens back to those old classic cars that you got to fall in love with car culture in the first place. Cars like the 55 Chevy Bel Air Nomad and the 70 Roadrunner as a few of my favorites. The classic offers a well-balanced dark chocolate flavor with beans coming from both Costa Rica and Brazil. My brewing process is simple by, buying a bag of ground beans and using a little bit of a Keurig cup magic, huh? But the cooler way to do it, and this is possible, is to use the French press method. Very sweet. Viewers of the show can use code Deora2 with the number 2, not the Roman numeral, at checkout for 15% off their purchase at lap24coffee.com. That's DEORA number 2. So go to lap24coffee.com and use code Deora2 with the number 2 and not the Roman numeral at checkout today for 15% off your order. Go check it out. Lap 24 Coffee, the premium choice for car enthusiasts. Thanks for sponsoring the Squared Corner podcast. Let's get back to it.
So yeah, you've got some of these prototypes here with you right now to show us. Sweet.
So we'll kind of talk about the evolution of the Deora 2. Deora 2 was Nathan Proch, Hot Wheels designer. His take on an updated version of the Deora 1, the famous car by Harry Lee Bradley, built by the Alexander brothers, won Detroit Autorama, won the Riddler Award. Nathan, great guy. Nathan was my counterpart, director design for the basic cars and track sets when I ran design for Collector and all the, the Collector cars, all the racing and NASCAR stuff. So Nathan took a spin on it, and Nathan came up with this design, which is this size of a Deora. This is a solid epoxy. You can see the size of it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is when you look at the size of the Deora, I'll show that one from the Peterson. If you look at the size difference, it's like much smaller, right?
Whoa, yeah.
So
that is a lot
Nathan's idea
smaller.
was it's about 3/4 the size. Nathan's idea was this car should be about the size of a Porsche, and we'll use a Porsche drivetrain. And that's how it was originally designed. So a 64 scale, that small 20% difference doesn't really show much, right? In 64 it can be 64-ish. Motorcycles are not 64 when they're in the
They're giant.
They're giant. And the monster trucks are miniature. And the regular cars are regular size. So we then decided, for the 35th?
Yeah, 35th anniversary.
That we needed, based on the success of the twin mill, let's build a car again. Because I'd run the first project and brought it across the goal line after it had been stalled a few times. It came to me, and I'm kind of the resident car guy, along with Larry and a couple others. So I took a look at the car and the project and didn't think about the scale or anything at the time. Just thought, what a cool idea. This can be awesome. This can be fun. But we can't take 5 years to do this or 4 years. We got to get this done quick.
Right.
So once I got the project and the way it was set up in the budget, it was very much similar to that Mothers was going to pay for the building of that car. Mothers was going to fund it, and they were going to have rights to the car, and it was going to be known as the Mothers Deora 2, and it's kind of naming convention like you name stuff. That deal blew up. We had a person within the Mattel confines who kind of screwed stuff up, to be polite.
Yeah.
Anyway, that never came to full fruition and caused a lot of grief, a lot of stress for a lot of people. Anyway, so Chip had worked on the twin mill, friends with Chip. I said, hey, what do you think about being our project lead, our fabrication lead on this Deora 2, helping us, do some of the design, but leading the project? Because I'm working at Mattel. I can't be in a hot rod shop every day, and I know it's going to be dedicated. So Chip took over the project. Chip and I then scanned it out and went down to Kinko's and made giant blueprints and blueprint this thing up. And then Chip had this full-scale little articulated person, like I cut out a masonite with pivot points and put it in there and said, a full-size person will not fit in this car. There is no way we can make a full-size. We got to scale this car up Goes also,
Yeah.
the wheelbase is way too short. It's not a narrow. It's narrower than a regular track car would be. He said, we're going to scale it up. So, I was good friends with Nathan. So I went to Nathan and they said, no, it's got to be that size. It can't be bigger. You can't make it bigger. I said, Nathan, we can't drive the car. It's going to be impossible to drive the car. And the idea is it's got to be a fully functional car. So back and forth. Nathan agreed. He's not an unreasonable guy, but he had his vision in his mind about how it should be. And so we started the process. Chip didn't have the fabrication techniques and the computer technology needed, so we went to a company called 5 Axis, Troy Sumitomo. Troy Sumitomo built all the show cars for Scion when Scion was still around, Lexus, and Toyota.
Yeah.
All these really beautiful cars. But none of them were fully functional cars. Like I said earlier, they had electric motors in them, and they had dark tinted windows.
Yeah.
So we looked at it, and we came to the conclusion that we needed a front-wheel drive engine that we would slide to the back. We called GM, and they gave us a Cadillac DTS, which is the North Star motor, our donor car that had been used for testing and press and stuff. And it was kind of beat up, but the motor drivetrain was good. It probably had 10,000 miles on it, but they get beat up with press core and stuff. And so they gave it to us. And then we realized too that because we had heard stories that the North Star motor, if you cut any of the wires, this is back when the onboard computer systems went to the next generation, because of anti-lock braking and fuel starvation and not leaning a new motor out and dry frying. It had all kinds of safety functions in it where if you did something wrong, the car would go into limp mode. Well, we found out the guys were buying these North Star motors and put them in hot rods. If the fuel line was longer than the stock North Star, it wouldn't get fuel pressure right. If the brake line was shorter or longer, the anti-lock brakes didn't work because it goes through the computer module. Sorry, that's my dog barking again.
He's all right.
And so we decided, don't cut any wires. Just lay them all on top, and we'll use the taillight housing, the headlight housing. We'll use what we need to. And so took the body off the car, dissected. Those are unibody cars. Dissected them as you can. Made 2 frame rail outrunners, put a Heights front end on the front. And we're 5 Axis, and they did all this stuff. Chip did the design on the chassis. 5 Axis then took the toy car, which is this one. This is actually the very first epoxy master.
Whoa.
So this is all the plastic parts, but the white body you see is epoxy. That epoxy was shot into a die-cast tool. So a die-cast tool is made where die-cast AMAG material will be ejected into it under pressure. It's zinc and aluminum and all different stuff. We had to get something to work with, so we had this one made first, and it really is the first shot because the body's not going to be plastic. Once we got started on that, then the next one came out, which was the diecast, raw diecast.
Whoa.
So this is the actual one we used on the TV show. We used for all the fitment. It's got the surfboards on the back. It's a fully functional one. The front opens. This one was actually used to scale the car. So if you look at the difference in scale, you could tell, even to the naked eye, the difference in the scale.
Yeah.
And that was made so we could sit in front and drive it.
Right.
And so they scanned this car, put it into what's called point cloud data, and then made a mold. But the way they made the mold was it's called a sacrificial mold. They took a giant piece of styrofoam, high-density styrofoam, and they had a 15-foot gantry, which just barely fit in for the car in 2 pieces. And they take this CNC machine and out of this giant chunk, cut a negative female mold of the shape of the car, laid in epoxy material, a fiberglass-based material. It's like epoxy, but it's like a fiberglass, and laid up the body, and then let it cure, put a plug inside to assist it to shape it, and then once it cured, turned the mold upside down and literally like an archaeologist carved away the foam. And I sent you some pictures, I think, of the raw body coming out of the foam. So now you've got a one-off body. That body was made into the chassis. The interior work was done. All the plumbing was done. All the final work was done. All put back together. And so that project took 24 weeks total.
Whoa.
We built that full-scale car in 24 weeks.
That's crazy fast.
Pretty amazing. That's the one that debuted at the Hot Wheels Hall of Fame with me and Jay Leno driving up in it. It was pretty wild. It was pretty crazy.
That's awesome. Because obviously it's my favorite car, but as well as the, what do you call it? That prototype. People are probably going to freak out and just, they're going to be like, can I have one? The prototype.
Well, this one was done for the Peterson Hall of Fame. This one is in the Spectre Flame Blue. This is the one from the Peterson. It was in a box. I have 2 of them. I one in the box and one out. But because on the surfboards it says Hall of Fame date.
That's cool.
And then what was really cool is when we did the invitation to the Hall of Fame, you got this in the mail.
Whoa. What is...
And when you open it up,
oh, so that's how you got those. Oh, whoa.
Yes. Yeah. So only invitees to the Peterson event, less than 300 people got this. And it has all the information on the inside, the date, where it's going to be, the RSVP. It talks about who the inductees are: Wooly Parks, Richard
gosh.
Petty, the greatest rider for 32 Ford and the 64 Pontiac GTO. And it's interesting, Jim Wagnalls, they just had a celebration of life father GTO. The milestone moments are the 1953 introduction to the Corvette. And the special honorary award presentation went to Elliot Handler, who was still alive and with us. And so that came with that. And then also, I've got this still too. We had dignitaries vote on those awards. You got an aluminum box, about 14 by 14, clamshell. Open it up, you had a leather-bound binder, and you open it up and you made your Hall of Fame selections. Then you took it off, tear it off, and mailed it back. Those only went to 15 people because they were our voting committee. I have that. I also have the mock-up for it because I had to put it together, make sure it looked right. You have to move things around, shape things around. So I still have those. So that event was pretty spectacular because it was not just the Hot Wheels Hall of Fame 35th anniversary, or Hot Wheels anniversary. It was a Hall of Fame induction. It was the induction of very famous,
Richard
important
Petty,
people.
that's crazy.
Petty is... I was very lucky during the Hot Wheels days to get to be really good friends with Richard and Adam, his son, who passed, unfortunately, and Kyle. And even back in those days, Lee was alive. At one point at Hot Wheels, we had all 4 Pettys there doing an autograph session. Lee, Richard, Kyle, and Adam.
That's wild. That's so wild.
Yeah. So the Deora 2 we took to SEMA also, but really the big unveiling for the Deora was, let me think now. Here's a trivia question. Where was the first unveiling?
I was wondering about that because...
Guess what? It was unveiled at SEMA first because SEMA's always the first week in November, and our Hall of Fame was the 11th. So it was SEMA first.
So I guess that happened in the Rides documentary, and I didn't realize it because they put that Escalade that was sort of supposed to be like boombox next to it, and it was supposed to be like a I don't know what was that car. Did you have anything to do with the Escalade?
No, and there's a story there too. Boy, how do I tell this story? The person that had an issue with the Mother's deal was not convinced that the Deora was going to be done in time. And even though it was, and there was never an issue, and decided that person needed to have their own car.
Okay. So, I see.
And that's a loose interpretation.
I think that's just fine.
These are allegations.
Until your book comes out,
So somehow that got put in there and squeezed in, and people didn't know about it. People got upset, and that was an interesting one.
I always thought it was supposed to be like Boombox. Boombox is another Hot Wheels fantasy I really like, and I was thinking it's sort of similar. It's got the blue that the Boombox did back in 2005-ish. Had sort of a similar livery. But I guess it wasn't. So that's something that people now know. Deora 2 is the only one planned with your team. And that was done...
But they were both there.
Yeah, they were both there, because I saw it in the Rides documentary. I mean, they had both of them going on at the same time, which I always thought was strange. I was like, I just care about the Deora 2. That's the car I cared about.
Well, hang on. I'm going to grab that other car, too, that was the one that's the rare one. Hang on.
And so this is to do with the Mother's thing that y'all have been doing.
So the Mother had the car wax deal. And part of the car wax deal allowed them to buy Hot Wheels cars and have them done in the graphics of Mothers that Chip designed for the package. The first 4 came out, really successful, sold like crazy. Their wax was going crazy. And it's good wax. They make good product. Mothers makes really good. Mothers polishes waxes, really good stuff. And then they had the next 4. Part of their deal in the contract for funding the Deora 2 was being able to use it in promotion. And also they got the cars for their wax bottles, premiums. And they were allowed to choose one car for them, specially tooled just for them, limited production just for them, that they could sell themselves, and then later, within a year or 2, would go into the collector line. So working with Chip Foose, they said, well, the car that Chip just did was the Grandmaster. The
Whoa.
3738
Yeah.
Chevy. This is the one of 6 64th prototypes. Chip signed it. It's hard to see, but
what?
it started as this, which is the Epoxy
Wow.
Master.
Oh, it's
So we always make an overscaled
That's
Epoxy
amazing.
Master. This one is done in the pieces that come
Yeah.
apart, like the car does. So this was put into production for mothers as part of their deal. It was the third
Okay.
year of their deal. The deal was blowing up by the second year. So what happened was, by the time this car was presented to me and shipped to me for approval, I had already left Mattel. I had left in 2005. So you can do your timing on that. And was working with Chip and a number of other clients, started my own business. So I got this car in the mail with a letter and said, from Mattel Licensing, sent for your approval is the Chip Foose Grandmaster car for mothers. Production will be this as per the contract. And I wrote it back and said, so you legal didn't realize that contract got canceled. Because when the Mothers deal blew up, they walked away.
Wow.
Mothers said, we're not doing anything with you anymore. We're done. They got paid to go away. The Deora 2 wasn't to be used by mothers at all. But I had already signed a new deal for Chip with Diecasts with JL Full Throttle. And the reason I didn't go with Hot Wheels is because Hot Wheels was only going to do 1 or 2 Hot Wheels cars of Chip Foose cars. JL Full Throttle offered me a full 24 164-ish scale cars. I've got them in my cabinet right here. And about 12 in large scale, which I can grab. This from the overhauling show. This is the very first car done in overhauling. The Chevelle's dusty, sorry. So they did large scales too. So because it was a robust line and more cars and more SKUs, it's more money, it's more brand building. We said, no, thank you, Hot Wheels. We're not going to go there. Well, they didn't know that the manufacturing guys never got the word to, hey, cut that project.
So they kept going with it.
So they sent me a box of 6. I wrote back to them and said, our contract is over. We've not had a contract with you for over a year. Got canceled because of the Mother's deal being canceled. And as per the contract, I will retain any samples. And they said, what? I said, well, read the contract. It says that we retain the samples. Approved and not approved. We retain all samples.
Wow.
So technically, not to get Bruce, if you're watching this, this is a lower production number car than almost any other car. Definitely more than the VW bus. Now, the problem is it doesn't have the provenance of the VW bus. It was built in 2003, 2004, but it is super rare. And also, because they were so ambitious and needed to get going, in tooling, you have multiple cavity tools. Most cavities, so in other words, within this big molding box, there's 24 or 36 pockets of this car being built, with the other parts being all at the same time. And to do production, they do what's called a runner shut-off. The runner is where the hot material comes in and gets distributed like a spider out to all the 4 quadrants. These 6, these 6, these 6, these 6. You got 24 cavity tool. And the tool comes together, clamshell, top and bottom, male and female. Well, for production, they do a runner shut-off. They put little slugs between there so it only fills 1/4 of the mold. 6 cars. 4 times 6 is 24. So they did a runner shut-off and made 6. They assembled all of them. They painted one of them a dark olive green. And they always painted just to make sure that the outgassing on the Zamag is complete and paint covers well. And it gives them a chance to test everything in the assembly line. Well, all the other ones were in raw Zamag, one in green. They sent them to me. I don't work at Mattel anymore. I told them I'll be keeping them. They wrote back and said, well, can't you just approve this? We've already tooled it up. I said, no, we don't have a contract. And I have a contract with another diecast company. I'm not going to create confusion in the marketplace, so we're not going to go forward. So I kept those 6. I gave 2 or 3 of them to Chip, and he handed them out to his mother. Gave one to the Mother's guys, and I kept the only known Epoxy Master. I kept for myself just because I thought it was fun to have this, because these rarely survive the process of being pantographed. And I kept one of these. So this is going to be sold one day.
Oh man, that's such a cool story. Not just about that specific car, but just about the process overall for what it's like to see a diecast get made.
Yeah, because generally now they use all SLA. They use rapid prototype 3D printing. In our days, that was just starting to come on board. In fact, when I was in the medical community, when I worked at Pfizer, we had the number 4 SLA 3D printer ever built in the world was at Pfizer. the first 3 went to Ford Motor Company because they were investors in the business. And so by the time Mattel got up, like when I went on the tour the other day, everything's done 3D print now. There's not carving of wax or plastic or putting pieces together, painting and finishing, but it's all done 3D print just because it's faster, it's more reliable. The features now are better and more resolved. But back in the day, I mean, this epoxy one, that's carved out of wood and then made a mold. So
that's really neat. And I mean, that gets me back to the Deora 2, which is, that was an epoxy, that green one. And the only other one I know is that Bruce owns, which is, I don't know however many were made, but Bruce owns that other one. And I always just found it just really, really interesting how far that Ford Taurus wagon back actually got with the headlights, especially. And just how curved it was. I mean, it became a lot less curved in the diecast, I think. And overall for the better, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, there's always a lot of subtleties when you take anything and transfer it to a different scale. So like you just making it fit. So like the twin mill, might as well tell the story. The cowl where the hood, the canopy comes down, the cowl is that flat section before you get to the motors. We extended that by about 4 inches. And the only reason we did it so you'd be able to drive the car and put your foot on the gas pedal, because otherwise your knees would be poking up. So but then we changed other proportions where you kind of hide it and change it. And the Deora 2, that was the reason it was scaled up, because there's always subtleties of like door hinges and parting lines and how things go together. So it's always
and what's funny though is that you say it's scaled up, but for us it feels scaled down, because in the movie it's gigantic. I mean, it's the size of like an actual like truck.
It's like a truck size.
Which is just, I think it's hilarious, that in the movie it's like it's the biggest thing ever. And when I told people that it existed, because I think a lot of people didn't even know that it was even around still, because I mean the last media we had saw before Legends Tour was I think back in 2013 or something, an ESPN article came out with Make-A-Wish Foundation, and Nathan Proch did like a pizza version for this kid that was had a very sort of similar type of disease, and so it was really cool. And we're like, oh, so this still does exist, but no one knows where it is. And then until the Legends Tour, we're like, oh my gosh, we can go see it. And I mean, I was so excited back in the 50th anniversary, and I missed it the first time. The second time, I said, okay, finally they're coming to Houston. I don't have to drive up to Dallas this time. And I was just like, okay, so I'll go dressed as maybe the character. And that was just one of the, I guess, claims to fame that I did. And I'm just like, holy moly, I can't believe that people, really, really care about this car. And it's still one of the, I mean, people that even never grew up with Hot Wheels will look at that car, like, just look at it and are just like, what is this? I mean, I always say it's a draw of the show of, versus Twin Mill and Bone Shaker, because I'm obviously biased.
Well, it's also kind of a genre-based car, because Twin Mill was very much genre-based back in the day. Big motors, giant tires, chopped roofs, muscle cars, hot rods, Big Daddy Roth, those kind of thing. And really, the genre for Nathan was, his concept on that was, his spin was, because the first Deora 2 had surfboards put on later. That wasn't Harry Bradley. He tells that story, how he was reluctant, but he liked it. And unfortunately, we lost Harry about a month or so ago. But Nathan's idea was, this would be for Southern California. It's a surfer's personal surfing vehicle. So it's to get back and forth to the beach. So the cab forward design was meant so he could drive up to the beach and look right out and see exactly what was going on without an obstruction of a hood or anything. Right in front. Cab forward, all the way extreme. Surfboards right in the back, and just pick them up and go. So that was his idea.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's one of those things that I think fans really love. With the 20th anniversary of this build, the 20th anniversary of the character and the movie, which is just absolutely crazy to think about. I was 3 years old back then when I saw this movie. That it just struck me. I was like, I love this car. And it was so funny because most people would think it's funky. It's got this big old, everyone, sort of makes fun of it. And they're like, it's a Ford Taurus wagon. I'm like, that's the best part.
The only part of the Ford Taurus wagon that's good. They took that part.
Right. So I just find it so neat. And the fact that y'all were developing the toy along with the real life one in 24 weeks is absolutely wild to me.
Actually, the 18 scale car was developed concurrently or in sequence with
That's
the
so
full scale
crazy.
car. They were both done at the same time. That's why we had to start with the epoxy one first, and then scale it, and then with about 3 weeks into the project, I got this one in the raw Zayman one, and that became the holy grail. That became the one we based everything on. And when it was all over and done, I said, I'm keeping this one.
I would too, honestly, if I were part of it.
And it's interesting, too, Troy Sumitomo then later started doing a lot more full-blown custom cars, drivable cars. So he gives credit that, hey, he had never done that before, but under the guidance of Chip and support of Mattel and some technology, he was able to do that and push it. And so, it was one of those stories where everybody benefited from it. The brand benefited it. I benefited from it. Chip did. Troy did. The car show community, people like yourself enjoyed it. So that's what makes it fun. I went to a little local car show this weekend down in San Clemente, and I always take Hot Wheels with me because I get cases of them and I hand them out. So there's two little boys. My grandsons were Hot Wheel kids. They were there too. But these two little boys showed up. Actually, there was 4 of them. 3 of them had Hot Wheels shirts on. So I said, you guys like Hot Wheels? Like, yeah. So I gave the boys who wore shirts Hot Wheels. And the older boy was older. He was like 14, 15, so he didn't care. But still to the point of Hot Wheels and the brand resonance, what it means to you and others. I've always said that I could go in a room and give everybody a $1 bill. And they go, cool. I go in the same room and give everybody a Hot Wheel. Oh, my gosh. This is awesome. Its value is greater than its monetary value. It's emotional. It's connective. It's a piece you could dream on. You can project on, like we talked about. So that's one of the nice things about the brand.
I guess I should ask, because I keep forgetting. Again, I'm geeking out. I'm loving every story. I guess I should ask the basic necessities of the Deora 2. Who designed the graphics for the Deora 2 and then applied them?
The graphics are the Hot Wheels logo, the standard Hot Wheels logo on the side, stretched out to fit, and those graphics were done by a good friend of mine, John Meehan, who owns a company that does vinyl graphics called Sticky Fingers Design. Give him a plug in Huntington Beach. He does a lot of Toyota stuff, a lot of work. He does a lot of Tesla stuff. An amazing guy. But this, you're talking 2003, I think this was. 2003. Yeah. And back in those days, we had large-scale graphic printers, but most of it was sublimated dyes. And the problem was, once those dyes hit that film, they would blossom out and they weren't sharp. John, we call him Sticky, had found this new process where if he calendared or laminated it, would preserve it. And so we took a chance on that, graphic, printed it out, buried it underneath clear coat, and before we put clear coat on it, we had Dennis Strickland do a pinstripe around the outline.
Okay. I was wondering about that.
So that was done by hand. Yeah, that was done by hand. And then the surfboards were completely done in graphics. They were supposed to be carbon fiber. Carbon fiber back in those days was a new material too. When I looked at them, the carbon fiber looks like it was, used at a golf range. People look like people drove golf balls into it. It just wasn't flat and shiny the way, because autoclave, you got to bring it up to temperature, you got to have negative pressure. The surfboards did it just so we ended up scuttling the carbon fiber, bondoing over them, and just wrapping them with. And I actually have that graphic file. I'm tempted to make myself some some Hot Wheels Deora 2 surfboards just for fun to hang in my house with a bunch of other crap.
Just for fun. How can I buy one? I love that graphic because it's a different. It was unique because it wasn't the one that was put on production stuff. It was like this other, I don't know, was it hand done or was it like it was a weird stretched one.
The surfboards were all done by the graphics team, all done by the graphics and packaging guys. That would have been, graphics would have been Mike Wilmot, Wayne Scott, Michael Heralda, all those guys. And they had more of a tribal approach on those. They had kind of a more overlapping flame tribal approach on those, because the body, as crazy as it is, you can't go. When you got a shape like that, you don't put flames all over it. You kind of let it sit as a single color and enjoy the shape and form of it. And so they decided, well, let's do something a little crazier with surfboards.
Okay, I was wondering about that because it was very interesting to see how it deviated from the diecast #1, and then from the actual World Race logo, which is different. And but man, I knew somehow, I don't remember who told me. I was like, it has to be pinstriped. Something has to be pinstriped here. And that's one of the most beautiful pinstripes.
Yeah, there's a thin outline, and at the bottom, and I don't know if it'll show, at the very bottom, he put a little flame at the bottom. So it's an outline
Yeah.
pinstripe, but
Yeah.
right in here, he put an extra little lick. And that was Dennis looking at it saying, it just needs
Yeah.
something down there. And I've known Dennis since I was 16. I said, Dennis, here's the deal. Put it on there. If I don't like it, I'll just wipe it off when you're not looking.
That's great.
But once he put it on there, I went,
Yeah,
okay, we're going to keep it there. Well, a lot of this stuff was kind of done on the fly, believe it or not. Sometimes, I'm no dummy. I work in a corporation. I know there's a pecking order. Sometimes I would ask for permission. Sometimes I wouldn't ask for permission. Sometimes I wouldn't ask at all. Sometimes I'd ask for permission to be told no, and I'd do it anyway, like driving the twin mill. So it kind of depended on... Thank God when I did stuff on my own, it generally worked out.
And one of the funny things is they added pinstriping to the back wheel, actually. They put like 3 little flame licks there. I don't know when.
Yeah, it's now that you talk about wheels, we'll talk about wheels on both the twin mill and the Deora 2. I was very frustrated when they changed the wheels.
I think all of us were.
The wheels done on the Deora 2 were
I love those so much.
CNC cut to reflect exactly the way the car was in diecast. They changed them later. Same thing with the twin mill. We made those wheels specifically as per the twin mill to make it look like it, and they changed them. And I don't know if it was a sponsorship deal or what happened to the wheels failed. I don't know why. But so to me, if you're going to do a heritage restoration of something, an old race car, so if you were to give me A.J. Foyt's, car that he won his 4th Indy in, Indianapolis in, and I got to restore it, I wouldn't paint it a different color. I sure wouldn't put vinyl lettering on it. I would do hand lettering. It's funny. I hand lettered a very historic Corvette race car the other day that was worth about $2 million. And the guy said, I wanted to look. One side got crashed. He was in a vintage race and got crashed in the quarter. And he said, take the pattern off the other side and make it look just like that. I want to see the brush strokes. I go, no, look, I can put Flozy on their phone. He goes, no. I'm not going to over-restore it. I want to see this. I go, well, the O on the first O of Greenwood's not quite the same. But he goes, I want it with the errors.
Interesting.
And so I tend to be kind of a geek in the purity. If you're going to restore it, don't over-restore it. So I did it the way he asked. And it was kind of fun. I was pretty nervous doing that car, but it was kind of fun. But so to that point, sometimes we would ask for permission. Sometimes we'd beg for forgiveness. Sometimes we just wouldn't ask. And, in any career, you kind of, you play that back and forth.
It is funny that they did put KMC wheels still on the Deora 2. It was just, I just don't like the 8 spokes nearly as much as those 5 spokes. I love them so much. Especially since in the movie, well, in the second movie, really, they put those tires on that green prototype. Those same, and that's the same as, I think, the concept art, if I'm not mistaken. But those actually made it to the movie. And so a lot of us really love that movie style with those 5-spoke, I guess rounded-looking 5-spokes. I don't even know how to describe them. They're just so interesting looking. Yeah,
this one, this was the initial design that Nathan had. That's the wheel. It's kind of concave. It's 5-spoke. It's got a little witness line in the middle at the top of the spoke coming down. But then when you look at the one that went to production, there's a difference. This is a flat blade, not a concave, not tapered. But that's the one we made the wheels exactly like that they changed. And the blade was too thin on it. So that's a heavy, bulky, bulbous car. When you have a little thin-bladed car, it looks like a wagon wheel on a Conestoga wagon. It looks like it's going to break. It's got to kind of reflect the shape and form of the car, but that's just me.
Well, but that's why we love this stuff. And that's why I love how some of those elements still made it into the movie stuff. And then, of course, I don't know if you've seen the Deora 2 now. It's in a Teku wrap, so it matches the movie, but now it doesn't have the wheels.
Right. And the twin mill now has a Mobile One wrap on it as a sponsor.
It sponsors the event.
So,
but stuff happens, and it's just how it is. I was so hoping, for that Road Beast though. It's 20th anniversary. Come on, someone at Hot Wheels, someone listen. But man, that would have looked so cool. And then if you want your Mobile One, just stick it in a quarter panel. I don't know. I don't care.
It's kind of spoke
right.
to
what no, you totally did already. I just say that. Yeah. I also wanted the twin mill in Road Beast livery.
Well, it's funny because the twin mill was in
Mm-hmm.
red when I did it, and when the discussion came up in one of the early design meetings, once I took over the project, what colors are going to be? And I said,
Yeah.
"Give me metallic red." Well, why? Because that's the
Red.
signature color. That's the
So
color
cool.
everybody knows. And they said, but inspector claim was all the different colors. I said, yeah, but the identifying color, and when we made it in 124 scale and Legends to Life, it was the
Yeah.
metallic red. So it's got to be metallic red. And then they did it in the lime green, then they did it in the blue. Before the blue, they did the Superman graphics. They did the blue. They've done the mobile graphics on it two or three times now.
They had the white one last year, and this one was brand new with the black.
Right now it's black.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 times. Right. So, yeah, it's I don't work there. It's not my company.
I'm wondering
I
if
can have an
maybe they
opinion,
already got a template for it, so it's the easier one to wrap now. Because I mean, that was the first time they ever wrapped Deora 2, and I was honestly surprised because I was thinking that's pinstriping. How are they gonna wrap over the pinstripe?
The pinstripe's buried under clear coat.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So it's actually preserved then, even if they take off the wrap, I'm guessing.
We hope that the real challenge is taking off wraps. It's when they take them off.
I will say
there's a real technique.
Yeah, I do hope, because I was like, I know you can still see the pinstriping, which is kind of funny under the wrap. But it's just one of those things. It's like, I really love the Teku Deora 2. I also don't want this pinstriping to be gone.
Yeah.
I guess, man, did we get off track? Mainly me. I get so.
Well, I do the same thing.
I get so geeky about this. I mean, we've been going for over an hour.
I got a little time at all.
Do you still have time? Okay, sweet. We'll keep going then.
I'm good.
This will make.
You have to break this up into multiple things.
It'll be a part 1 and a part 2. So yeah, let's talk about. I guess. So we talked about the Deora 2. Talked about how there's a bunch of changes now. Talked about who did the livery, who did the graphics. Trying to think if I missed anything specifically. Do you know what its 0 to 60 time is actually? Because I don't think that is ever said.
I don't think on either one of those cars we ever got an official 0 to 60 or any kind of performance. In fact, if anything, I may be dumb, but I'm not so dumb that I would push my limits when I'm told not to drive a car to come back, not just admitting that I drove it, but here's my time slip. So here's factual, tangible evidence that I broke the rules.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. I see. So we don't actually know anything.
Insert disclaimer here. Yeah, but not in my day was either car officially timed. There was some unofficial comments on how fast it went at the Vegas Speedway. Take those tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. You can do a visual unless you're a certified CHP officer and your eyes are calibrated along with your radar gun.
Yeah, it's too bad that guy with the that cop should have just went. Maybe just no.
Yeah.
Just real fast. Yeah. I think that may be it for Deora 2, and just in terms of the build spec and everything for everyone that's a geek about it. I'm thinking, did I miss anything with twin mill? Oh, I did want to ask, what was the design behind the lights? Because the lights were totally new in the twin mill. They have like these really, I guess, embedded lights. How?
If you look at the twin mill, there's been multiple variations within the casting, and sometimes the casting changed the lights from an indentation line to a light to a painted light. At that time, we were trying to follow the 24 scale twin mill, which had lights inside of it, little weak grain lights inside of it lit up. And it had that bezel around it. I think that bezel was a little thicker than they probably wanted, but it was more mechanical, so they could trap that plastic piece into the die-cast material. A thicker, too thin would break, right?
Yeah.
So we tried to follow that. We did scale it down a little bit, but we were following on the twin mill itself. So just like I showed the Zamag of the Deora, on the twin mill, my reference piece was the 124 scale Legends to Life twin mill.
Oh, okay. So y'all did that as well during twin mill's development. Is that correct?
It was actually done right before.
Oh, wow. Okay, so y'all actually made what it should look like before y'all made what it did look
Correct.
like. Wow.
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Because back in those days, when it started at Boyd's, they were just starting the Legends to Life and the collectible line. And the idea in those days was all those products, which would be the Jay Leno set, the Boyd Connaughton set, the George Barris set, and one other, were all going to be like mail order, like you log onto a website.
Yeah.
But websites were really early in the days. Yeah. E-commerce had not been robust. Mattel could not make the shift to e-commerce. And so those ended up being switched over to what we refer to as alternate channels. Alternate channels meaning anything other than big box stores, so hobby and collector.
Mm.
And so they ended up going to hobby and collector. The problem, though, those were very expensive 4-car sets. The Boyd set, the Jay Leno set, and the other ones. There was a Mobile Oil set done. There was a Harley Davidson set done. You got them in boxes, and then you put them in your own display case.
Yeah.
But they were 20 pieces in there instead of 4. There were multiple pieces.
Yeah.
That was under Larry Wood. He designed all those. At that time, the market was very robust for that, and then it started slowing down. But really, the real end of the collector market for Hot Wheels and the large scale stuff was when Walmart quit buying them.
I see. Yeah.
When Walmart's taking, let's say, 60% of your product line every year. In the old days, Toys R Us would say, "Give us one of everything." We love Toys R Us.
Yeah.
They didn't cherry pick anything. Walmart knew how to cherry pick. I mean, that's their number of support. They know how to,
Yeah.
They look at 2 products that both sell for $19. They realize my margin's better on this one than that one, just because they know, what we call A cost or landed cost.
Yeah.
And so once they quit taking 18 scale, then it started tumbling downward.
I see.
It is interesting, though, because we played some tricks within the Walmart buyers to be able to get the 2-car, 4-car sets put into Walmart. So we'll tell that story another day. We kind of let them know that they couldn't have it in their market, so of course then they had to have it. We kind of told them, no, this is for alternate channels. It's not for Walmart. And the buyer, Walmart, said, "I want these," and so it helped because we were making the one car,
Yeah.
and then we did 2-car sets. I wanted to do 4-car sets.
Yeah.
And in the 4-car set, I wanted to have the rule that at least 2 of those were new tooling.
Yeah.
So we keep splashing into the new line, so singles could be different colors. Did a set for Bruce Meyer, who was at the Peterson Museum. Bruce is a great automotive historian. We did a signing at the Peterson that to this date was still the most successful event they've ever had at the Peterson. The autograph line went around the block.
Whoa.
His 4-car set of the cars he owned: the Greer Black Prudhomme Dragster, the SoCal Belly Tinker, the Pearson's Brothers Coupe, and AJ Agajonian's Troy Rudman owned 1952 Indianapolis winner.
Wow.
Right, a little 4-car 164 set, and each one of those guys were their representative to sign.
Wow.
AJ had passed, so he had his son Chris sign.
So I do have to ask, in terms of signing, did y'all ever sign anywhere on the Deora 2 or the Twin Mill when y'all built it? Is there any is there a hidden place I can find?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. I'll leave it as a mystery. I signed on both of them.
Okay. I'll have to find it someday.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll just say at some point somebody will probably discover it.
Okay.
It's on a movable part. It's on an inner liner. That'll give you some clues. And there's only a couple movable parts on that thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I signed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to ask Dave real fast. Dave.
It's gonna be like hidden Mickeys at Disneyland.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Hidden Mickey.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I did always wonder, did Nathan ever sign the Deora 2?
No, Nathan, God bless him, he had been sick and had some treatment, and it didn't go real well, and he kind of had to take off from work afterwards, and there was a lot of stress for Nathan during the building of the Deora 2 for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I gotcha. Darn.
I think I told you, and I was very upset that this wasn't allowed or permitted. I wanted to have Nathan and Harry Bentley Bradley sit down in the room with the full-size Deora 2, the full-size Deora 1 at the Peterson, and do a designer forum talk, hosted, coffee and treats and the whole thing, sit down, hosted, and do a compare and contrast between the two. Nathan, who's super affable, super just gracious guy. I loved him. Well, he's still around. I mean, he's a great guy. Very passionate, very articulate, very intellectual designer. He doesn't just draw stuff. He thinks, then he draws. And Harry, who's very similar, Harry could be a little caustic and short-tempered and, be upset with people. But to look at the two designs, one being homage to the first one and kind of a treatment and a kind of a retrospect and kind of a new spin on it would have been, but I wasn't allowed to do that. I was supposed to be in the ride show, but I was very specifically told, no, that will not happen.
Yeah, and it can never happen now, unfortunately.
No.
Man, that's heartbreaking as a fan, I have to say.
Yeah.
But man, I guess I have to say I'm just so grateful to Nathan because of all this stuff, and you, of course, of the designs.
Nathan was fun. Nathan was always a fun guy in the office. I'll tell the same story I tell about Nathan all the time. So John Handy had like 6 or 7 direct reports. Nathan as a director, me as a director, the Boys Toys, action figures that did Max Steel and all that stuff, the He-Man stuff, the play set guys, the graphics group. And so I used to laugh that it didn't happen, but in John's office would be a wheel. And on this wheel, you would spin it, and on the wheel would be names. It would say Carson, Nathan, Mike, Fred, Joe, Alton. Nathan. Because John Handy loved to just get in Nathan's, head. And Nathan was real animated and very articulate, and would get wound up, and he'd go, like his face would turn red, and about halfway in, Nathan would figure out John's just messing with him. Yeah, Nathan, he really, like I said, he's an intellectual designer. I mean, there's design that's emotional. There's design that is problem solving. There's design that creates opportunity. There's design that creates chaos.
Yeah.
He really thought deeply about his design. But the interesting thing about Nathan, I can give him all the credit in the world for this, is his designs always fulfilled his design criteria. A lot of times you see designs that fall short.
Yeah.
And in the automotive world, I guess you'd call that the Pontiac Aztec. or the earlier generation Prius. There's lines on that car that never go anywhere and don't match up to anything. I don't know what they were thinking. But Nathan's designs resolved around his design criteria. And his design criteria was, what am I trying to accomplish with this design?
Yeah. What
is the purpose? What's the intent? How's it expressed? And once you dissected that, which I teach at the university, I teach design methodology. To me, I really appreciated just sitting with Nathan at that bench at lunch and having him articulate what he was thinking on a design. Why this? Why that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Everything had a purpose and a reason and a value.
Yeah. I mean, one of the examples I remember him saying on an interview was the forward swept wing was supposed to be like a fighter jet. And exactly. I had never known that until I looked that up. And talked about it. And then we recently found an interview finally after years and years and years that the dot on the CM6 wheel that I think Mark Jones designed, if I'm correct on that.
I think it was Mark.
For Acceleracers, which was the sequel series, that red dot was an homage to the red lines. And it was supposed to be like, hey, we're making red lines for this era now. We're sort of setting a new standard. We just did Deora 2, and now here's the second generation of the red line. And unfortunately, it didn't last that long. But, I mean, it is back because of that. And that red dot was so special, and I guess...
Yeah, because the red line was known for it. So you know why the red lines were taken off the Hot Wheels?
I don't, actually.
It was cost cutting. It was a little less than a penny per car to put red lines, tampo them on there. But when you're making millions of cars a year...
That's a lot of money.
That's cost saving. Yeah. And like Larry tells the story, too, there was a few years there that Larry was the only guy in Hot Wheels. He was doing everything.
Wow.
So cost cutting became very paramount.
Wow. But yeah, and so... just those little things that, I mean, I wish I could read more. It was so hard to find. It's so hard to find anything now because everything's dead media on the internet. You have to go to archive.org. You have to, I mean, you're searching everywhere. You're going to Japanese magazines and stuff like, all right, let's translate this because...
Yeah, I still need to find that Japanese magazine with me and Nathan with unveiling the car at Crystal Cove.
Hey, whenever you do, either send it here or I'll post it, and I think that would blow up so hard because I know that's maybe the only picture of Nathan and the Deora 2 to ever be together in an official picture.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, that was an unfortunate thing, and that was one where I took some grief on because people kind of blamed it on me until they found out who the real decision maker was. But nonetheless, it was a lot of politics. They're a toy company, but maybe they don't always play well with others. So sorry.
Oh, that's funny. And sticking to the 20th anniversary and all that, I saw that you sent me a picture of the guitar. I think, what did you say, Fender made it? It was a hand-painted...
Yeah, Fender, limited edition Fender guitar.
Yes. So this is very special to us because we saw this with the Smash Mouth, hot song for 20th anniversary of Hot Wheels. It's one of the coolest little Easter eggs. So did you get that hand-painted, and then what happened to it?
Yeah. That was a hand-painted one for the video, and then Fender said, we have a license department, so Larry designed a guitar. The first one was a hand-painted one that was used in the video, and the next ones were like graphic. Somewhere on my computer, I should send you a picture. I have the lead singer of Smash Mouth. He's a big drag racing fan. I see him at the drags all the time,
Oh,
and
wow.
every time he on comes up. Oh, and he's got. I'm so bad at this. He says, "Hey, Carson, how you doing?" And I forget his name every time. I forget his name, and I shouldn't. But yeah, that was kind of cool because I ended up having a prototype guitar for that, and I ended up selling that later to a collector. I don't play guitar. It was just sitting there. My new rule now has been if it's not in the office or in the bonus room, I don't walk by at least once a week and see it. If it's in storage unit, I should just sell it.
Yeah.
And part of it, too, is my kids don't want to interpret, like, what's this one worth versus that one? Dad, I don't know. I mean, I have gas pumps and neon signs and Coke machines and Nooksters and diecast cars. And I got, kind of Disney collectible stuff. It's like, they don't want to sort through this. So I sold the guitar a while back. But that was a fun project. Again, that's a brand extension.
Yeah.
Who would think what Hot Wheels has to do with music?
Yeah.
Well, when Smash Mouth came along, we have a lot to do with music.
Yeah.
The music video was pretty cool, and those guitars were very, very popular.
Yeah, I know Bruce has one of them. It was signed by Larry. I think he has Larry's. Yeah. I would love one day. But then they did another collab recently, but it was just not that interesting, I guess. I don't know. It was just like, we're just going to stick some Hot Wheels graphics, and that was it. It didn't look like the one.
And that's the danger is you never want your collaboration to look like what I call a label slap. Like I peeled a label off a card and stuck it on my car, called it good. It's like, you've got to have something that is, again, you build brands like I talked about. Business is built by transaction, brands built by transformation. So you take that core equity and you expand it and expand it and expand it. If you go from here to there, you're going to fall in the gap in the middle. So expansion has to be organic. It has to be understood. It has to be delivered. It has to be fulfilled. But if it's not understood first by the people designing it, it's definitely not going to be understood by the people that are receiving it.
Yeah. Well,
and so
I did want to ask, who designed that livery on the Smash Mouth guitar then?
Larry Wood.
Larry Wood. There we go.
Larry Wood did both of them. He did the first one that Bruce Schultz hand painted, and he did the graphic for the production one. Larry Wood did both.
That's cool.
Sorry. And Larry in the production, it has Larry's signature on it.
Yeah, that's cool. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to get that out there because I think people would want to know.
Yeah. So back to your, the next iteration that didn't work. Not to pick on anybody, but boy, you've got to understand what you're trying to accomplish. So back to Nathan and the design criteria.
Yeah.
What does it start from?
Yeah.
What am I trying to accomplish? What's the end goal of this? It's no different than, and this is a similarity between me and design and medicine, is what's the intent? What's my hypothesis? What am I testing against? What's my control group? This group I control, I leave alone. This group I do the test I see. Then I measure against the two. Then I compare it to my hypothesis. Then I draw my conclusions. Then I make my next steps. Design is really an iterative process along the same thing. What's the design criteria? What am I trying to do? Save material, use less gas in the world of plastics, make a toy that every kid loves, change people in a technology way, influence them, agitate them, respond to them. So really, design and art are closely linked, but art was used in the 16th and 17th century by churches and governing bodies to influence people because they didn't speak the same common language and people weren't literate. So they went to a church and they saw this edifice and treatments and Christ and Mary and the 12 stations of the cross and the pulpit and the sanctuary. And it was communication. It was meant to communicate to people where their roots were. Well, that's a design methodology. Even though it's art, the end result, there's a design methodology behind that. Then as, people become more educated and art takes new ways. The trick is you never really should confuse art for design. Something that's designed well could be artful and beautiful in an art way, but design is a business tool. It's meant for commerce. It's meant to make people's lives better by limited resources, better utility, better service, whatever. Art really is a social speaking point of to agitate, to respond to, create, to reinforce, to redirect, to ask questions, to provide answers. Art's a different thing. And so it's interesting that when you get into the intellectual parts of art, there's a few guys out there that really get it. And there's a few guys out there that is really good at drawing pretty pictures.
Yeah.
When you peel back the layers, you go, okay, if I open this door, it would crash into the hood. Oh, well, that's just a drawing. You're like, well, that drawing's not, you're not going to make it in production.
I see what you mean. Yeah. I think it's interesting that a lot of Hot Wheels designs made it into video games, and a lot of video games are really it's another way of how we interacted with the brand, of just oh, this is this car. This car can actually drive. Oh, I can maybe actually drive this car in real life maybe someday.
Right.
You know, that was one of the interesting things. Like Slingshot, I love Slingshot. That's also Nathan Proch. 24/7, I think that's David Weiss, if I'm not mistaken.
Dave Weiss, yeah.
And then I mean, just multiple cars in that era of just, and these cars now to us, you know, they make the new video game called Hot Wheels Unleashed. Like anytime they add one of those cars from those video games into the new one, we're just like, oh yes, finally, yay, you know. In video games, kids actually get to see these cars as real drivable things, and they want to drive them. And it was just, you know, you touched a little bit of point on the coolest car company ever. You know, we love driving these cars in the movies or thinking about driving them using video games as our like way. And then you actually see the Deora 2 and Bone Shaker and Twin Mill that are actual real life Hot Wheels cars. You know, I think it would be so cool to actually see more of that and even see them at tracks. You know, I want to see them drive. You know, you never get to see them really.
It's funny you mention that because I always thought they should take all the cars in the stable, all the cars in the Hot Wheels Legends garage, and go out to Fontana or Irwindale and just do a track day and just drive them around.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Maybe give some VIP rides, maybe get some press rides.
Yeah.
I really think that, because really a car that's not in motion is just a chunk of metal and glass and plastic.
Yeah.
It's only really a car when it serves its intended purpose, and that's just to be moving and drive.
Yeah. That's why I really liked the show Life Size. It was very short, Motor Trend. It was like 10 minutes, and they just drove the cars, and it was just so cool to see them actually moving on the road. You know, you get to see Deora 2, you get to see Bruce Pascal in the Deora 2, a little jealous. You know, so I just wish they'd do more of that, you know?
Yeah, well, write a letter.
Write a letter.
Write it into
this is my letter, Mattel. Please, let me, if I can drive maybe the Deora 2. It's like one of those things of, if I drive it, I really don't want to crash.
It's an interesting, if you've ever driven a VW bus, it's very similar because you're right up on the front of it. You're right up on the top of it. I mean, you're literally, it's easy to park it because you can see exactly if you're going to hit something. There's no projected length in front of you. You don't have to have great depth perception. You just simply lean forward. You can see the end of that car.
I see. Okay.
The driving is a little unique because the engine's way in the back.
Yeah.
So when you get into a tight turn, there's a lot of understeer. There's a lot of those front wheels being pushed around the corner instead of diving in, which is oversteer. So on the track at NASCAR, when we drove that one too, it's like it's a little dicey because it's speed. It doesn't want to swap ends or anything, but you can kind of feel it. It's like a knife blade wanting to cut different than you're directing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, actually. I think that'll be...
Twin Mill is interesting because there's so much horsepower, it overwhelms any sense of anything you have. You don't feel steering, you don't feel brakes. You're just sitting behind these two long motors. It's driving you. Yeah, you're merely a resident and you're a passenger in that thing.
That's funny. Oh, that's great. I think that'll be a neat little note for people that really, because they always ask me, what's the Deora 2 drive like? I'm like, I don't know. I've never driven in it. They're like, well, you started it up. I was like, yeah. And then I revved it, and then it stayed still.
And the thing that's frustrating to me about revving is it has a rev limiter on it. The North Star motor, so it starts doing that throttle bleeping. That's another thing in the computer that's saving it from being over revved and rev lined when it's not. So it hits a rev limiter. So that's kind of frustrating.
Hey, I mean, I didn't rev it that hard, so maybe that's why I never hit anything.
Next time.
Maybe next time. That'll be great. So yeah, I guess that's just one of those things. It's like kids want to play and then also want to drive these cars later on, which is what you said is, you know, kids have the car that they want at 18 years old. And those movies were our way of seeing that actually happen. You know, Vert Wheeler, he drives this car, and
right.
And that was just such a neat thing.
But that's aspirational too, because kids see the animated characters or real life characters doing this, and that they want to do the same thing. In fact, a little side note story: I grew up with drag racing. Yeah. I hung around all the time. I had an opportunity to get a super comp license, and then I got an alcohol license, and then some friends put me in their top fuel car. So I got to make passes in the top fuel car. In fact, I wrote a story about it. What happens when a regular guy gets in the top fuel car? And first time out, I fried the clutch. I followed my instructions. They weren't quite as exact as I wanted them.
Yeah.
But so my theory was, you know, it looks easy on TV.
Yeah.
But when you get in that Top Fuel car, there's at the point that I was in this car, there were 22 distinct things you have to do at the right time in the right order, or things go to chaos and you blow stuff up. And so for me, when I first went to drag racing school, it was very cathartic and very therapeutical, because you cannot think about anything other than driving that car. So the magazine article, so Tom McEwen, the Mongoose, the Snake and Mongoose, was the editor at Drag Racing Magazine for a while. And I saw him in a NASCAR event where Larry Wood and I were out there with the Petties driving the Petties cars. Richard used to always call us and say, hey, y'all boys want to come out here and scuff some tires with us? Jeez. And so for the racing school, when they put new tires on, they never let students drive on new tires, right? Because they're too slick. They're not worn. So he would invite us the day after NASCAR, and we'd go up there. So me, Larry Wood, and his wife Sherry went up there and drove a bunch of hot laps in the cars in the Petty school.
Man.
And what Petty tell us on the earphone, dive in tighter, you're too loose on this turn, come out faster. Literally telling us what to do, right?
That's so cool.
So McEwen was there too. And McEwen says, dude, Carson, and I've known him since I was 12, and he was always very acerbic, very dry wit, very sarcastic. He goes, what are you doing, man? He goes, you know what? I drive so fast, you can't go around a corner. He goes, I drive so fast, if I turn the steering wheel, I'd still go straight. I go, well, if anybody ever gave me a chance, I'd drive a Top Fuel car too. He goes, really? I go, of course I would. He goes, okay. Calls me the week later, he says, I've signed you up for the Frank Hawley Drag Racing School. I go, what? He goes, you're going to take Super Comp classes, then you'll work your way up. But he goes, the one thing you have to do for me is write a story. So I wrote a story for Drag Racing Magazine about how I worked my way up from Super Comp to alcohol to Top Fuel. But to that point, I had that dream starting when I was 12 years old and first hanging out the drags. My wife, if I could show it to you here, the picture is right there. Can you see the drag car?
Yes, I can see the drag car, yeah.
Yeah. My wife had a buddy of mine do an artist impression of the photo. And on the plaque at the bottom, it says 40-year dream. I dreamed of it at 12. I got to do it when I was 52.
Wow. That's so neat. Yeah. So, and it's...
So to that point, these are the things that, I had two reactions. My daughter, the youngest, was a hot rod kid, thought it was the coolest thing. She was there for my moral support. My son, who's more practical, said, this was the dumbest thing you've ever done. And I said, well, Aaron, you were into basketball. What if the Lakers asked you to come and do a shoot-around before a game? Would you do it? Yeah, but that's different. I'm not going to get killed doing the shoot-around. I go, I'm not going to get killed doing this if I do it right. But it's funny because it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder.
Yeah.
The angel saying, stop, Will Robinson. You've never done. Your brain is processing about 1,000 signals a second. It's like multiple. You got to really focus.
Yeah.
And it's telling you, stop. I've never gone this fast before. This is scary. This is weird. I don't know what I'm doing. And the other one, the devil side says, go a little further. Nothing's happened yet. So it was, but I found it back to the point. I found it to be very therapeutical because for working on the magazine article, I wanted to interview friends who were in drag racing.
Yeah.
So Gary Selzy was a famous driver. He's since retired. Drove for Alan Johnson, drove the Oakley car, funny car, Top Fuel, won the Winston Championship. When I asked him, and Gary's funny, he says, well, first thing let me ask you is, you're going to drive the Top Fuel car, right? He goes, well, when it launches, it's really going to hit you hard. I go, how so? He goes, well, do you have anybody in your family who's like morbidly obese? And I said, yeah, and I won't mention the name. And it was an aunt. And he said, well, it's going to feel like that ant sat in your lap really fast when you hit the loud pedal. It's going to hit you all over. It's going to squeeze you. He goes, but here's the thing. As far as thinking, you do one of two things. You overthink that car or you underthink the car. You never think it. If you think it, you would never get in that car. Overthinking means you are so analytical. You are so prepared. You're so intuitive. You are thinking and processing every signal and you're reacting to it like a computer. Underthinking is you drive by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Because you never think a car. If you thought it, you'd never get in a car. And so it was a great experience for me. I'm still scheduled to get back in the car one day. The team wants me to get a license. So that was 18 years ago when I did that last, because I'm 70 now.
Yeah.
I don't think at 70 years old I'm going to get into a Top Fuel car. But I wouldn't like driving some of the lower level ones. So it's a good thing I don't have money or I'd have a race car. But back to the point of these kids driving the cars through video games, they can nearly experience that, in a video game, the way the video games are now. They can have that feeling of what's it like. What's the vision look like in a twin mill? What's the vision like in
Forza did that. Forza was really cool because they did the twin mill in Forza Horizon 3, and I was loving it. And what's great is you can put whatever livery you want on it. And so, of course, Road Beast. And then finally, I think last year, they finally put the Deora 2 in the game. I was like, come on, guys, where's the Deora 2? And now you can also drive the Deora 2, which is great. And people can see first person what it's like inside the car, you know, in pristine condition, of course. And it's like mind blowing to them. And, you know, it's so funny that you say that, you know, you grew up with Snake and Mongoose as like, that was, you know, and I guess Jack Wheeler, I don't know if you remember Jack Wheeler. He's the comic book character.
Character.
But, so then you got Snake and Mongoose, and that's sort of like our Vert Wheeler and our Kurt Wilds and our Nolo Passaros. I'm just naming a bunch of characters you may not know, but that no fans know. And it is just, it's a connection that I think you do need some type of a driver just to see what it's like, but then you get to be the driver later on.
Right.
And that's one thing I've seen about Mattel. I know they don't like to put drivers with names in cars. They like calling them Speed or Turbo. Like, a character's name is Turbo. Okay, I mean, it's not the end of the world.
It's one of the reasons, too, why rarely do you see a figure molded in a Hot Wheels car.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that we want the kid to put him in that car.
Right.
There's a motorcycle sidecar, a streamlined one that has a rider in the sidecar.
Yeah.
There are a couple cars that have drivers, but probably 99.99% of all Hot Wheels that are made don't have a car in there because that seat is open for the kid who bought the car.
Right.
That's you bought that toy car, you get a ride in the real car.
Yeah.
First thing we do, we put it down on the ground, we look at it like we're in it. I still do.
Yeah. It's fair. I mean, that's what I love. Sometimes you get those really nice interior cars, you know. I know, I think Dwayne just did one recently. There was a really cool one with Dwayne. I think it's the Vancinator. And you get to really see the interior sometimes. No, maybe not the Vancinator. You can't see that one. Anyway, point is, there's some really cool cars out there. That connects to that same old school and new school type feeling, I guess. And we already touched on a little bit about 100% Hot Wheels. We talked about how like 1/18th scale probably not going to happen because I mean Walmart doesn't like them as much, I guess.
Well, the problem too when you look at shipping efficiency. So if you take a container, the cubic size of a container, how many 18 scale cars can you put in there versus how many 64
makes sense,
or smaller ones? And so each one of those has a profit point. It has a cost associated with it. What's really interesting is the 18 scale, particularly in materials, is not a multiplication effect of that much more than a 64 scale in dramatic sense. The problem is the shape and the box and all the extra volume it takes up.
I see. Yeah.
And the weight causes packaging to be more robust and stronger, thicker materials, more cushioning, more double layers. And the market, it responded really well for a while. 18 scale was just going crazy. But then the minute it lost that main outlet, we needed that as kind of like the lost leader to be able to sell to the other people. And without that, it just fell away.
Yeah. Do you ever think that it could come back? Because originally you said they were going to do online stuff, and now they do online direct-to-consumer a lot. Do you think it ever could come back as a direct-to-consumer type thing?
It could, but again, shipping of an 18 scale online is going to be it's going to be 4 or 5 times the cost just for shipping. And people, my argument would be, well, I could pay for a really cool car or pay for shipping. I'd rather the money go to the car.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Shipping. So,
that makes sense.
So, and then also what we find too is like in Europe, the scale of preference is 1/43rd scale. And the reason is they don't have much display space. Like in California, the United States, we have more room. Our houses are bigger. We have more like a basement. In Europe, they don't have that. So that's why they favor the smaller cars. That's why they're even the little tiny ones were doing really well for a while. It's just hard to get the detail in there. So there's got to be a level that's, you know, appreciated for its detail, but yet big enough where it's still got some weight and mass, but not so big it costs a bunch to ship. So it's kind of that teeter-totter effect.
That's just some neat things. I just thought I'd get that little advice because I know we all would love 100% Hot Wheels to come back in some way or another.
Yeah, one of the ones I did, in fact, there's multiple versions of it here too in 18 scale. It's one of my favorites is the Ed Roth Beaten It Bandit.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
I hanging out in Ed Roth's shop as a kid, and he was a big influence on me.
Wow.
And so I have this one, the first one. I have the first production painted, not production, but the prototype that his wife Trixie signed for me. That's just a paint test. And then I have the production version. And then this will show. That's me and Ed at an event.
That's so cool.
This is when he came to Hot Wheels.
Wow.
That's me and Larry showing him the cars we're making. That's Ed mocking the camera.
That's so cool. And you said you even done more. I mean, you got to show around Elliot Handler around the, Mattel Center later on in the 90s and stuff. Was it like talking to Elliot about like the differences of like what probably they did back then to showing him now.
Yeah, Elliot was, he's a guy, father of Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the story is that he looked at Matchbox toys that his grandkids were playing with, and they didn't roll with their cold-headed axles or solid wheels, and so we got to do something better than this, and so Harry put that to task. He was really blown away by the depth of it, how many more SKUs we were doing, the variations, how we could support a collector line, along with a main line like, mass outlet, and then how many licensing deals we were getting. And really, it just showed that, again, back to design methodology, design foundation, understanding your marketplace. That guy knew there was a market for these.
Yeah.
He knew so well that he didn't even know all of it. He knew that it was, he didn't even know how expandable it was. And really that came because of his vision. So it expanded into multiple versions, multiple scales, track sets, licensed vehicles, replica vehicles, fantasy vehicles. When at first he just wanted to have cool cars that rolled fast.
Yeah.
But he kind of knew something was there. And he just kept saying, man, I wish we could have done this in my day. I wish we could have done this in my day.
Yeah.
He was very impressed with the detail because, of course, manufacturing techniques have been enhanced greatly since then.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I think you get to see someone that experienced it firsthand, and now they get to see what it's like secondhand. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
I feel like we sort of went down now with the dollar car, I guess, being so basic. It has to be so basic now. In comparison to the 2000s. But that's because money has dropped and other things.
But I'll tell you, it for me, it tends to be kind of relative to the kids. So, I talk about my good old days in music and when I could, hitchhike to the beach or whatever the story I tell. And now, there's no way I let my kids hitchhike to the beach or grandkids. It's all relative. So I'll tell you this, though. My two youngest grandsons, Cole and Riker, huge Hot Wheels fans. They just freaking love it. I have a case of Hot Wheels. When I pull that out, oh my gosh, those boys. So it's working for them.
Okay.
And Hot Wheels is still selling a bunch.
That's fair.
And it's kind of like me, why aren't they making 63 split window Corvettes anymore? I would buy one of them. Well, that's why 63s are worth so much money.
Yeah,
So we kind of get nostalgia and it kind of warps our vision.
Very true.
Because things keep moving and going forward. And so at some point, you gotta look at it and say, well, it's a new audience. It's new kids, but you gotta let the brand grow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it grows organically. Sure. Sometimes it grows in directions that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's still working for kids today. Even though a lot of the cars I look at them and go, well, I don't really get this, but the kids are. I can just go by my two grandkids. We all long for nostalgia. Like I wish I could go to the drag races like I used to, and do all the stuff I used to do, but things change.
Right.
That's the one thing that's constant.
Yeah, well, that's some good wisdom, especially for us as kids growing into adult. We're like kidults at this point, We're still little kids, but we actually have to move on at some point. In some ways,
Well, I make the analogy for an old guy like me about riding on the bus. When I was younger, I drove the bus.
Yeah.
When I was middle-aged, I rode on the bus. Now, at old age, I'm getting run over by the bus. So
that's funny.
That's the best way I can put it.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. I guess. Oh man. Is there any other stories about Nathan maybe you could tell? I think this will be the last part about this Deora 2 stuff, and we'll move on maybe into.
I gotta find that article in that Japanese magazine because it really paid tribute to him. We need to have somebody translate it too because it's all in Japanese.
Yeah.
It's a not hardbound. It's a glossy magazine, oversized format, great photography. He was thrilled to death. Here's the beauty of Nathan too. He never held it against me that he didn't get to play a part in the building of that the way he should have or had the Peterson. He knew the real story there, which was nice.
Yeah.
Because you could get your feelings hurt. If I designed a car and somebody else built it and I wasn't, involved. He'd been sick off and on, so he wasn't in the office very much. And his system got kind of a little unstable for a while there, so he got it. But just a good guy. I really enjoyed having him as a counterpart because we had kind of an unwritten rule that if we had a product that we knew was better in the other guy's category, like if I was working on a car and no, this should be a basic car, I'd take it over to Nathan and say that you need to do this one. This one's not right. If he had one that was a collector car, I'd say, Carson, this needs to be a collector car.
Yeah.
We were, we both ran two different divisions of the Hot Wheels brand, but never like we were arch enemies or pitted against each other, even though some people kind of tried to pit us against us by saying he couldn't be involved in things. That's kind of divisive. But nonetheless, Nathan was a gentleman and still is. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. I missed my days working with him. I mean, we even go back to the Hot Wheels Design Center. I went back the other day. It's changed completely. Everything's different. There was a few people there that I still know.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
But again, that's the other thing about being the old guy is things are changing. Things dramatically change.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Nathan was a great guy. Still is.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, I guess, more of you. Since, man, we were just getting, I don't even know.
I have a habit of doing this. I'll go down any rabbit hole.
Well, I'm just glad you did, because I know people want to hear Nathan's story. People want to hear your story. People want to hear the Deora 2 story. People want to hear the Twin Mill story. All the other stories that we've been talking about. Man, there's so many. But, you were also telling me about, the Design Center. We were just talking about the Design Center and how you actually did something in the Design Center. And this is in other interviews and podcasts. However, they're not my podcasts, so they didn't watch it probably.
Yeah, right. So it's new to your audience.
Yeah, new to my audience. So why don't you give us a little bit about what you did at the office there at Hot Wheels?
The gas station?
Yeah, the gas station.
So as much as John knew I like to push the limits, I think he gave me projects sometimes where he could say, oh, that's Carson pushing the limits, that's not me. So John came to me one day after Twin Mill was done and Deora, I think, was already done, and said, hey, look, we need to build new offices. I want you to just be the construction manager before I make sure it gets done. I go, what's the criteria? Well, we need one conference room. I need one office for a director, and I need a workbench. I said, okay. I said, and at this time, if you would have taken all the toys out of Hot Wheels, just stripped everybody's cubicle, it would have looked like a McDonnell Douglas, a dentist office, a doctor. There was no personality in that building. And so I'd been thinking about this, and I think John and I might have casually mentioned it before. And so I said, John, well, does it have to look like an office? He goes, what are you thinking? He knew, tongue-in-cheek, I want to go, can we build a gas station? He goes, you want to build a gas station inside a building? I said, not a gas station where you get gas, but let's make it as a metaphor. He goes, what are you thinking? I said, well, think about the gas station. The overhang where the awning is, where the gas pumps are, that could be your workbench.
Yeah.
And we could put a display of real cars there. And on top have a big Hot Wheels sign. The work bay could have a slat wall that looks like a roll-up wall, but it's a slat wall that you hang product on. That'll be the conference room. And next to it, where the little cashier's office would be with the glass windows, that'll be the office. He said, do you have any sketches? I said, no, I can sketch something up for you. So I sketched something up and came back in later at the end of the day and had a row. And I restore antique gas pumps and oilers and have a bunch of Petrolina and automobilia stuff. So I know my gas stations.
Yeah.
And I designed a simple little, like would be in the middle of the desert, just a little tiny 2-pump station, 1 dog, right?
Yeah.
And so I sketched it up. He said, good. He goes, but here's the problem. We can't spend any more money than what it costs to do a regular construction. So we had a guy there by the name of Patrick Kittle. Patrick ran the model shop and did all the props for Toy Fair when we presented products and did all the inside construction that was specialty stuff. I went to Patrick and I said, I want to do this, but it can't cost more money. And he said, I will do it for whatever the cost was. I'll do it because I just want something fun in here and I want to kind of shake this place up.
Yeah.
So we designed the gas station. I think I sent you
Yeah,
pictures.
I love it. And I'll show them up
It has
here.
the two gas pumps out in front. One says high test design. The other one says no knock design. I did those graphics. I kept one of the globes for myself. It's in my office. Larry sourced the gas pumps. We got a big neon sign on top. We parked the Hot Wheels cars inside there. We had a workbench in front. So between the two gas pumps was a table that was a workbench you could do presentations on. And I said, hey, being we have a bunch of designers here, let's have a little fun with this. Let's have each designer design his own oil can. Like they got an oil company.
Yeah.
So Larry did Larry's snake oil. I did Carson's midnight oil. In fact, there's a can in here somewhere in the office. Anyway, everybody did their own. And so the theory was if you got fired, take your can off the shelf. You just got canned. And if you're away on vacation, take your can off the shelf and we can look at there and see he was here. So we put that together. So then Patrick, about halfway through the construction, said, well, I got a budget to paint these walls here. We're going to be doing it on weekends. You have anything you want to do? I said, oh, because I think all at once, but I don't reveal my plans. I reveal my plans incrementally.
Right.
Because if I gave everybody all my vision at the beginning, it would scare the hell out of them. They'd never let me do anything. So I think in big picture, but I release in steps, right?
I see.
So I said, I already got this figured out. Been thinking about it. I want it to be like this gas station's in the middle of the desert. Like the back wall will be cactuses and just a sunset. And then you turn, and then behind it, it's like a city lights out in the distance and this one road that goes off like a single road that comes to the gas station. And then when it's like 300 feet long, then when you turn the corner, it's Hollywood. The Hollywood sign, the Capitol Record buildings, the skyline, searchlights. And he said, dude, you are on. Sketched it up. They painted it. We didn't even have to pay for that.
Wow.
He managed to get artists that would do that on spec because it built their portfolios.
Whoa.
Because they
Interesting.
had a great they got paid.
Yeah.
But they did it for like just what a normal mural. And this thing was beautiful. We should have scanned it and digitized it and turned it into artwork. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think you can see in some of the pictures that just in the background, you can see
Yeah.
a few of the details on there. So it became so popular that the Barbie girls turned their new office into a dream house. The entertainment people that worked with all movie products built the front of their office like a movie
Oh,
marquee.
that's funny.
And the games and puzzles people had an office that was a giant dice, and on top of it was a game token.
That's great.
So when I went in there the other day, all that's gone. Although I did take a picture, the gas pumps are still there.
Oh, okay. So the gas pumps was
They
there,
still had the gas
but
pumps there.
I guess
Both of
the mural's gone. Gas
them.
station's gone.
Gas station's
Are
gone.
any of the oil cans still there?
oil cans are
All gone.
In fact, most of those employees are probably gone. We all got canned. We left. So yeah, but they have a designer wall where celebrities sign the wall. They have a wall full of Hot Wheels and Matchbox.
Yeah.
They have a cool little historical review, like a timeline of Hot Wheels and what happened. And talks about the twin mill and the Deora 2 being built.
Yeah.
And kind of like a timeline. So I mean, they celebrate their history there.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to go in 2018, not maybe inside, but you got to go with your RedPhin. The I guess that's what it's called.
I
the
didn't
RedPhin.
walk inside. I didn't go real far inside that time because there was a bunch of people outside that we were going to go grab some lunch afterwards. But yeah, I had my RedPhin down there for the inaugural kickoff for the Legends Tour.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's awesome. So what is that like? You know, you get to go back as now just with your car, and you get to show off your car a little, maybe.
It's interesting because they actually made a Hot Wheel of my car, which was another funny story.
Okay.
So they had a casting of a 59 Impala, and it was a lowrider. It had fender skirts and leg pipes and was always done in kind of a tribal graphic or a lowrider style themed pinstriping. Tom Stedden, who I mentioned earlier, was our handover engineer. When designs were done from the designers, your handover package of the drawing and a model reference or drawing sketches, whatever graphics, would go to Tom, and Tom worked with the factory. Tom came to me one day and he said, "Hey, you," and he knew me, I'm a car guy. He goes, "Your 59, Bel Air, it's a post, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, we're getting ready to retool the Impala casting, and a bunch of us engineers got together and thought, might be kind of cool to your car.
Oh,
we don't
that's
want to do the
sweet.
lowrider again. We're going to retool it. Let's do something new." So I said, "We'll take the fender skirts out. We'll go from a hardtop. We'll put a post on there. We'll put RedPhin on the side of it."
Oh, that's sweet.
I said, "Can you do this?" He goes, "We're engineering. We can do whatever we want to." He goes, "It's a retooled car. You're the head of design. You can do what you want." So they made my car.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they gave me a case of them, and I should have been better at keeping them because I only have about 15 left of them. When I go to car shows, I'd hand them out to kids.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Yeah.
half the fun. So yeah, they made my car as a Hot Wheels car. So having it there at the design center, and I always hang a Hot Wheels of my RedPhin car on the mirror when I park.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. That was and the story on my RedPhin car, it's a 59 Bel Air. I had a 55 Chevy before that. I'm working for Hot Wheels, and I want to have a unique car. So I went to a car show one time, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, man, I love your 55 Chevy. Now, remind me, is yours the burgundy and white, the black and white, the teal and coral, or the turquoise and white?" And I went, "Well, how much impression did it make?" So I came home, I told my wife, "I'm selling the 55. And buying that car is another whole story about convincing my wife to buy the car. We'll save that for another day.
Okay.
So I started looking around. I thought, you know what? Probably the most irreverent car ever designed is a 59 Chevy Impala Bel Air Biscayne. Cat eye taillights, big wings,
Yeah.
swoopy details. Looks like you drove through Pep Boys with a magnet and everything stuck to it. I'm going to build that because I remember as a Cub Scout going to the GM plant at Van Nuys and watching them make that car. And I looked at my friend and I said, "That's the ugliest car I've ever seen." And now I own it. So my job was to try to make that car as cool as I could.
Yeah.
I've had it for 22 years now. I can't sell it now. It's called RedPhin. It's the name of the business. My deal right now in my office, I have 4 or 5 iterations of it. I get all my favorite automotive artists to draw pictures of my car. So I have a Chip Foose, a Fireball,
Oh, wow.
a Larry Wood, a Steve Stanford, a Mark Jones did 2 drawings for me.
Whoa. That's cool.
So I love to get everybody's interpretation of that car for me.
Oh, that's so cool. That's such a cool little story. Oh man, I love it. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about that because I know you sent me some of those and it was just like, yeah, this is my car. Oh, okay, I like it.
It's for design students. It's a study in design and reference. So it's the last major car that Harley Earl, the head of the GM studio, worked on. Bill Mitchell was his apprentice, And 60 was the last year for big fins, and that's when it went from the cat eye taillight to the bullet taillights, and it wasn't as curved; it was cut squared on the taillight on the fins. 61, you had no fins.
Yeah.
And the first car that Bill Mitchell, the new head of design, had total control on was the 62, 3, and 4 Impalas that are very tight and squared off and very tailored. So we refer to 64 Impalas as a tuxedo. It's tight, it's crisp. We refer to a 59 Impala as a leisure suit.
That's nice.
Big lapels.
Yeah.
And, kind of irreverent.
Is the 59? Is that the one in Cars that is?
Yeah, that's Ramon.
That's Ramon. Yep. Okay, and
yeah.
I think someone told me that Chip Foose actually designed the graphics on Ramon. That's so cool.
Yes, he did.
That's so neat.
Yeah, he did. He did the graphics on it. In fact, I have in my office here. So we worked on when I was at Mattel just leaving. We just got the contract for Cars.
Oh wow!
The movie, the Diecasts.
Yeah.
And then I started working with Chip, so we worked on the Cars movie from the graphics sense. And then when Cars Land came up, Chip was asked to be a designer, and I was asked to be involved with the development of Cars Land.
Whoa!
And so we did all the hoods that were painted and pinstriped. All the pinstriping inside Ramones is all hand pinstriping.
What?
All the pinstriping inside the ride. All the painting. All the graphics. All the artists. The nice thing is, it's in my office right here in the corner. When it was all over and done, and it's an interesting story, and I'll try not to go too deep. Is my dad died early when I was 3.5. My dad always wanted to work at Disneyland, at Disney. He had friends. Claude Coates was his high school buddy who was Imagineer. And Ollie Johnson was in the Bulldog Club that my dad started. My dad died early. My dad never got to fulfill that wish because he was kind of trapped in a family business working for his dad.
Yeah.
He couldn't leave his dad. And so when I got to work on that, it was kind of like a fulfillment of my dad's dreams. And also it was kind of a fulfillment of my mom. After my dad died, she went back to work and held a family together. And it was a tragic story, but she made good of it. When we would go to Disneyland as kids, we celebrated two things. Another year, my single mom with 4 kids making it to Disneyland, which some years we didn't make it. And we went where my dad's dreams lived. My dad really wanted to work there. Yeah. It was an emotional thing for us. So when it was all over and done, we're doing the walkthrough. And Kathy Magnum, who's the executive director of Imagineering, she worked directly for John Lasseter. She was our contact for all the painting, all the pinstriping, all the graphics, all the packaging, all the artwork. I mean, this project kept getting bigger and bigger every day. Said, Carson, I got to show you something on the ride. We're walking through the ride. The cars aren't operating. And at the very end of the ride, if you've been on it, you can get tires at Luigi's or you can get a paint job at Ramone's.
Okay.
We walk through the Ramone's paint booth, and as the doors open, I look on the left, and there's a pallet rack, and there's 29 paint cans with my initials and birthday on them that says CL1224.
Wow.
She said, do those numbers make any sense to you? I said, well, that's crazy. That's my birthday and my initials. She goes, that's done in tribute to you.
Wow. Wow.
So when we go there now, my grandkids always laugh and say, we're going to go visit Papa's cans.
That's so cool. Oh, my gosh.
And so they did that. They do a lot of that stuff. They hit our birthdays on the license plates on the cars. So every once in a while, you'll ride a car that has a CL1224 or a Chip Foose, a CF1013.
Oh, man.
Kathy Magnum's birthday is October 13th, too.
Oh, man.
They put a lot of hidden messages in, and if I move my camera, I could show you what. I have a little display area. So if you can see, this is the. Sorry.
Uh-oh. I think.
Let's see. Oh, did I lose you?
Oh, it's okay. I think I won't be able to see it at the moment. Oh, there you are. I can see you now.
So if you can see the red car there, do you see that?
Yes, I do see that. Yes.
That's the paint sample. Up above it are the paint cans. You can just see 2 paint cans, 2 different sizes.
Oh, whoa.
It's the big one at the bottom that they did for me.
Wow.
And then the other thing I have is this very special thing. John Lasseter signed his John Lasseter truck for me that said, thanks for everything, Carson.
Wow. That's so cool.
And then I have my Hall of Fame rings that I was lucky to get, the pin set we did.
Wow.
More Tikis and Hot Wheels stuff and Walt Disney memorabilia.
Gosh.
So my office is just, geez, I should show you the other side. This stuff's all full of stuff.
Oh, man, that's so cool.
There's stuff, skateboard I painted.
Wow.
The dolphin I painted. Just, the office is, this office took over a mind of its own a long time ago.
That's so sweet. I know.
But the Disney stuff was an important thing for me. It was an emotional thing because my dad really longed to work there.
Yeah.
And my dad was a very talented designer, very good artist, did a lot of really interesting things in his career. But he died when I was 3.5. My mom had 4 kids under the age of 6. $38 in a checking account, had not worked in 10 years, had a car payment due the next day, and a house payment due the next week.
Wow.
Held it all together. My mom and dad met in World War II building P-51 Mustangs.
Wow. That's
So my
such a
mom
cool
was a little
story.
dynamo. She passed away 3.5 years ago at 95, was sharp to the very end. And I still teach lessons in life that I learned from my mom.
Yeah, that's
My
sweet.
favorite one is she, many times, because she was in aerospace, the men that she trained became her boss. She came home from work one day very upset, saying, once again, it's happened. The guy I trained 6 months later, now he's my boss. And so I get on my little 12-year-old, 13-year-old high horse. Oh, Mom, you need to quit. They don't appreciate you. And she says, sit down. You need to learn something. She says, I'm lucky to have this job. It's retirement. It's benefits. It pays, for you kids to stay in school and keep shoes on your feet. If you're thinking that I should go back there and demand something just because I'm working hard, that's not why you work hard. You don't work hard for a reward. You don't work hard for recognition, an attaboy, a bonus, a check, a raise, or even recognition. You work hard because God made you capable of hard work. And the next time you run into hard work, you know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And I remember 12, 13-year-olds thinking, what a sucker. And years later, I thought, man, if everybody had that idea.
Yeah.
So her idea was you don't work for recognition. You work because you're capable of hard work.
Mm.
The other thing, too, my dad died in a tragic situation. And one time I had said, this isn't fair. And she sat me down again. She said, you're going to learn this one day. Life is not fair. It is consistent, but it is not fair. Fair is the guy down the street has a rich uncle. Fair down the street is that girl's beautiful. Fair is that person just naturally can play the violin. We can't control fair. Consistent, we can control. Work hard, and consistency will follow. Wow. So I learned a lot from that lady.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess let's end on this, which is Snake and Mongoose, classic.
Yes.
This is the classic story of Hot Wheels. You were telling us it's 13 years old. You're meeting these guys. I guess just let's talk about your experience with them on the drag strip, and then your experience with I think the movie and giving them that award.
Yes,
I think that'll be a great end for this.
So I was always hanging out the drag strip. My mom worked Saturdays, and she would drop me off at Lions Drag Strip at 7 a.m. so she could be at work at 8. Problem is, Lions Drag Strip didn't open till 8:30. So after about 3 or 4 weeks of sitting out in front waiting for the gate to open, and Mickey Thompson, famous drag racing guy, drove by, said, "Hey, you gonna be here every week?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "My mom drops me off. She works Saturdays." So he said, "Well, why don't you wash my car?" So I washed cars for Mickey Thompson. He would buy me lunch and get me into the drags for free. So I would hang out in the pits. My friends were the Mooneyhams, they made blowers. They ran dragsters, Reith Automotive, the Littlefield. Doug Thorley made Doug's headers. All the painters, builders, drivers, welders. There was a place in Bellflower that did all the funny car chassis and all the lettering. Kenny Youngblood, who taught me how to letter, was the artist. And so I was saturated. If I was in the speed shop, I was in a fabricator's. If I wasn't there, I was at the painting place. If I wasn't there, I was at the drags. That was my life. And I was in gymnastics, so I was in the gym a lot. But other than that, that was my life. So I was hanging out there all the time. And in those days, both Tom and most racers were famous for showing up with maybe one crew guy when they should have had 2 or 3. And so they'd pull kids out of the crowd. And so I got pulled out one time to go to the water box. Because in those days, they only ran water in the motor they don't run water now, for one run. And then they dump all the water, what they call the water box, and put new fresh water in it. Well, it's hot water. And you got to be really careful. So you got to kind of work your way up to this job. So McEwen, Mongoose pulled me up and said, "Hey," my nickname was Corky back then. "Hey, Corky, you want to work the water box for me today?" Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, it's like a badge of honor amongst your friends. You walk away and get a ride in the truck, and your friends are like, 'Oh, man.'" So I worked the water box for him for a race. And then he said, "I'm going to be back here next weekend, but I need somebody to get to my car after I do a burnout is spitting oil out the breathers. I need you to walk up to the car after I do the burnout and wipe down the breathers and get the oil off because I don't want the headers to catch it on fire." But he goes, "Do not get that rag near the blower belt. It'll pull your finger into it. And to make sure you stand back, and as soon as you're done, you get back behind the starting line." So I did that. Got called out by Wally Parks for being under 16 and in front of the starting line. So I wiped down the breathers. I worked my way through. So I worked my way up further and further and further. And then I started doing stuff for Snake, for Dom, too, Perdome, and I'd go back and forth between the two. So here's the story. So I'm at McEwen's pit, and McEwen says, "Hey, Corky, what are you doing hanging out in Snake's pit all the time? I thought you worked for me." I said, "Well, Tom, you don't pay me, so I don't really work for you." He goes, "No, but you're supposed to be my guy." He goes, "You know what? He's got a part of mine, and that's why he's winning all these races. You need to go back and get that part." I said, "What is it?" He goes, "Well, it's a left-handed valve straightener." I said, "What?" He goes, "It's a left-handed valve straightener." He goes, "And don't let him mess with you." He goes, "That's why he's winning all the races. I need my part back." So, little 13-year-old kid goes running across the pits. Don at the racetrack is always focused on racing. He says the same thing. I can't talk to you right now. I'm trying to win a race. So I tell him what I want. He goes, go see Bob Brandt, who was his crew chief at the time. I tell Bob, and I should have known because Bob kind of gave me that gleam in the eye when I said McEwen needs his part back. He needs the left-handed valve straightener. And I saw Bob kind of go, I should have known that I'm on a snipe hunt, right? So he goes to the trailer. He brings back a cylinder sleeve that they slide down to the block so it doesn't wear the block. It's a sleeve that's replaceable with vice grips clamped on the top and something spot welded on the bottom in a rag. And he comes over to about 3 feet to me, and he throws it to me, and he says, here it is. Tell him it doesn't work anyway. So I go running back across the pit, because they never pitted next to each other, because in those days they were kind of enemies.
Okay.
I go running back, this way before the Hot Wheels deal.
Oh, wow.
Go running over there. And so I go over there, and McEwen says, oh, and he looks like he remembers, like, oh, you got it? I said, yeah. And McEwen is such a deadpan. He was so sarcastic. Well, give it to me. I give it to him. He unwraps it from the shop rack, and he looks at it. He holds his hand. He looks at me. He goes, kid, do you know your right hand from your left hand? He said, I told you, don't let him mess with you. Go back there. They're messing with you. So I go running back about halfway there. I'm like, wait a minute. So I told that story when we brought Tom and Don back to the Hot Wheels convention.
Yeah.
I said, you got to come here. People revere you. They think of great things of you. They buy your cars, and they were like, no, they don't remember. And there was like a line 3.5 hours long waiting for their autographs. And Tom says, what is this? I said, that's your autograph line.
Wow.
And so then Don looks at Tom and says, well, if we would have known Corky was going to be working on Hot Wheels, we would have treated him better. Don says, no, we wouldn't have. And so, so for the 40th anniversary of Snake Racing, maybe the 40th anniversary of Hot Wheels, I forget which one it was. I think it was 40th anniversary of Snake Race, of what they call wildlife racing, Snake and Mongoose. We did an event at the Peterson Museum, or at the NHRA Museum, with the replica Tom McEwen car and Don's actual yellow Barracuda with the ramp trucks.
Oh, wow.
And had a big party and a limited
That's
diecast
awesome.
and a big celebration. A guy named Alan Paradise, who's a magazine editor for years, now he's a screenwriter, he had done some magazine stuff for us for Hot Wheels, and I was friends with him. I said, hey, look, can you go back to NHRA and get all the archive material you can? Go to any IMDb, wherever you can find all the Hot Wheels commercials, do some interviews, and let's get about an 8 or 12-minute entry piece, like a video documentary, pseudo-documentary, quick intro, of Don and Tom, the personalities, the racing, how they put Hot Wheels on the map, and put it together. And I got to get a copy of that piece from him. He put it together, and honestly, it was a highlight of, like us talking passionately about Hot Wheels, it reminded all these diehard racers about most of them got their first love from Hot Wheels. And so put this together, and it was really done well. Later that night, I'm talking to Alan and Don, and I said, Alan, this needs to be a movie. This is a great story, Don and Tom, and people who know the story of Indy, the big race every year. There's always the Pomona race, the Indy race, and the finals. And really, if you win one of those 3, you're set for a year or two. Well, at Indy, just 2 weeks prior, Tom's son, Jamie, had passed away from leukemia. And Tom was very close to him, and Don was very close to Jamie, too. Well, at that race, Tom won rarely. Don almost always won. And they dedicated that race to Jamie. And that was part of that little video. So I said, this is a story. 2 buddies that are buddies. They become enemies. Then they become frenemies. Then they become competitors. Then they become enemies again. Then they become... It's this weird in and out, kind of like a Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid kind of story. So I said, you need to be a movie. And Al looks at me and goes, I don't know anything about writing a screenplay. I said, look, it can't be that hard. Go on the internet, find a screenplay format. So he wrote it. The movie got picked up by Rhino Films Division. Robin Brody was the executive producer on it. Tom Holliday was the director, really good guy. They were the people that did Dogtown Boys, about Peralta and Perot, the skateboard story, and that's one of my favorites because I was a skateboarder as a kid. It really, I thought, told the story and showed where kids ended up and how it worked for some and not for others. So it got picked up. Alan Paradise calls me and said, dude, I got picked up. I got optioned. They bought the screenplay. I'm working on it now. You're going to be in my movie. And I said to him, don't ruin a perfectly good movie. So at first I was going to be a disgruntled, like John Force, talking a mile a minute, I always said John Force is like a combination of Gary Busey and Fire Marshal Bill. It's like, let me tell you something. He's always got the sponsor names going, Yeah. And then it morphed into, I got to be the track announcer at Lions, which my life has had this. I start here and I come around full circle, like a Ed Roth hanging out in the shop. Full circle, I get into his diecast. Kenny Youngblood, he teaches me how to letter. Full circle, I'm doing licensing for him. Don and Tom, full circle, I'm in the movie. So I got to be, the Lions drag strip announcer. Roughly portrayed as Steve Evans. Steve had passed away, and the Evans family didn't give permission for his exact persona to be used. I did call Cam and say, look, I got this thing. I know you didn't want it to be the Steve Evans character. I'm going to play the track announcer. I won't have a name, but I am going to use some of your dad's vernacular. Some of the phraseology he used was just the best. And he said, and Cam was very nice. Cam said, of all the people I know, I can't think of anybody better who knew my dad, because I knew his dad.
Yeah.
I was there at the last drag race at Lions.
Wow.
And so I got to play that, which was really cool. I got to be in the movie. So that was pretty awesome.
That's sweet.
So can't complain. So yeah, it was pretty. I have upstairs a helmet that I painted for Tom at his request. Another funny Tom McEwen story. He goes, hey, I see you doing all this pinstriping stuff and painting these race cars and boats, and you've never done anything for me. I said, well, Tom, you've never asked. He goes, do me a favor. The one helmet I don't have is my full-face Corse helmet when I drove the Corvette. It's a full-face Bel. It's right on the bottom. I said, oh, I know what it is. I said, I'll paint it up for you. So it took me 2-3 months to finally find a helmet, paint it. I saw him at a car show or a drag race, and I knew I was going to see him. I said, I'll give you your helmet. He's such a funny guy. It shows how Tom was as a person. And Tom knew how close and how much those guys meant to me as a kid. I was kind of wandering around for a while there, and they kind of mentored me. Mm. So I gave it to him, take it out of the bag, and I give it to him. And he goes, hey, anybody got a Sharpie? And he signs it, and he hands it back to me. He goes, here you go, kid. Now you got something to remember me by. I didn't want that helmet. I wanted you to have it.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, my gosh. Man.
So at his memorial, I brought that helmet out and put it on display.
Mm. That's nice.
That was Tom. Tom was very sarcastic, very acerbic, if he loved you, he'd ride you like a donkey, man. He would whip you, beat you, talk crap on you. That's how you knew he liked you. So yeah, I've been blessed with a lot of guys that mentored me in a lot of different ways. So my theory is you got to pay that back. You got to mentor other people.
Well,
but yeah, being in the Snake and Mongoose movie was nice. It was really when I drove up to Bakersfield, they had half the drag strip dressed like it was Indianapolis and the other half dressed like it was Live's drag strip. It was like going home.
Wow.
It was awesome.
That's so nice. Well, man, I guess we'll go into the speed round now, and we're finally ending. Oh my gosh, 2 hours and 30 minutes. We haven't had a podcast this long since I had Acceleracers on.
Sorry, I could do this every time.
Are you kidding me? This is exactly what I wanted.
Well, I'm glad. I hope you think so when you're trying to edit it.
Oh man, I love it. I love it as much. Getting all the stories because people want to hear this, and a lot of people want to know what went behind the scenes and all the magic that happened. I mean, you were just talking about Imagineering even a little bit, and there are people that are Cars diehard fans that are probably going to be like, oh my gosh, now that I go to Disneyland, I'm going to look for this, So yeah, we'll do the speed round, and then we'll sign off. Here's the first question. Favorite Hot Wheels original car?
Oh, it's got to be Twin Mill.
Twin Mill. Very simple.
Got to be.
What Hot Wheels would you build if you had unlimited money?
In a full-scale car?
Yeah, full-scale car.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of it. It was a Greg Pageanton designed car. It had two Harley motors bolted side by side, a long pickle fork nose on the front of it. It was a Greg Pageanton car, and we almost built that instead of the Deora. I don't know the name of it, but that's what I would do.
Okay. Well, do you think it's a 2000s original or something that we could maybe find?
It's got to be right around there,
okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to look for that. All right. Favorite part of working at Hot Wheels when you were working there?
It's going to sound kind of egotistical, but the crazy thing about that job is if I went anywhere in a Hot Wheels shirt, I got the gold key entry. It wasn't me. You got to separate yourself. It's not me. So I took my son to Indianapolis 500 for a graduation gift from high school because he got straight A's and had a great record and did well. We went there and we're waiting in Gasoline Alley for them to open the gates for us to go in. And this guy's up on a high security chair. And he looks at me and he yells into the group, "Hey, Mr. Hot Wheels, up here." I go, "What?" He goes, "Up here now." I'm like, "What the hell did we do? We're just standing in line." It's crowded. Like it's when you walk in the infield of the track, the Gasoline Alley, we're right at that gate at the pit wall. And he goes, "Hey, I got 2 hot passes for you." I go, "What?" I go, "You don't even know who I am?" He goes, "You got a Hot Wheels shirt on that's good enough for me?"
I'm wearing a Hot Wheels shirt everywhere I go now.
Well, I had a hot pass for my son. We were very lucky that a neighbor of ours, his father-in-law, had a number of Indy entries for a while there, and he got us into there.
Oh, sweet.
into the track. So, but the Hot Wheels, so it's one of the things you got to remove yourself from. It's not you, it's the Hot Wheels logo. But that was one of the
Gotcha.
cool things about the Hot Wheels job.
That's sweet. What is your favorite collab that y'all did with Hot Wheels, or maybe not Hot Wheels? I don't know.
Favorite collaboration?
Yeah.
There's a lot of. It's hard to pick one. I mean, the Cars stuff was cool. With Chip and bringing that and doing and turning that into a market where we did collectibles and paintings and limited edition gallery stuff. The Troy Lee collaboration was really well done. Keith Megg, who was the director of engineering, brought that to us, but we were able to take it over and run design on it. I guess those would be the first two that come to mind.
Gotcha. All right. What is your proudest achievement?
You know what? Not work related. Being a dad, being a granddad.
That's nice.
I grew up without a dad, so it was really important for me to be, to try to recreate my past and improve upon it. And so that would definitely be that.
That's
The
nice.
rest of the stuff is just stuff.
Yeah. What would you do if you still worked at Hot Wheels?
Well, I'd probably still be breaking the rules. What would I be? I'd probably be in trouble. Because I'm one of those guys, if I get away with it once, I'm going to do it twice. And then I'm going to try something the third time that's brand new and different.
Oh,
That's what I'd probably be doing.
That's funny. And the last
I would
question.
definitely be doing more segmentation of the brands and Diecasts, like going down the rabbit hole and finding the little niche stuff.
I see. Hey, Acceleracers, we're here. We're right here,
Yes.
We're waiting.
That needs a reboot.
We're waiting.
It needs a reboot.
Oh, man. Which car do you like more? I already know now. Deora 2 or Twin Mill or one of the other originals they built later on? Of the real life ones.
I'd probably say Twin Mill because that's where the idea of building a full scale car came from,
Yeah.
and that really turned me. And honestly, it changed my career to licensing and design management, and changed me into a different kind of business. Deora 2, I like really because the recognition and treatment for Nathan and what that car was to the next generation of kids.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Your generation.
Yeah. And lastly, is there any place people can find you on social media, maybe follow you or just contact in general?
I'm getting ready to retire. Business is winding down a bit. And that's a good thing. I'm finding more stuff to do and doing more consulting with certain clients, which is kind of awesome. And more about that later. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. I don't do Instagram too much. I'm on Facebook, and you can find me on Facebook either under RedPhin, RedPhin Productions, RedPhin on Facebook, or on Facebook just under Carson Lev. On Instagram, I think my Instagram handle is Cork the Dork. Because I think I told you my nickname was Corky.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter couldn't get her R's spelled or phonetically pronounced. And to tease me, she used to call me Cork the Dork. So I use that for my Instagram handle.
That's funny. All right. Well, you can find me on multiple different social medias: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Just look under JayCee Squared. That's JayCee Squared, otherwise known as JayCee Squared. And if to those that have supported this channel directly, thank you very much to Acceleracers, Ratchet RPG 01, Road to the Dragon Lord, and Citrus 3.
And to new members, of course, like Alseg and Slingshot Kurt 847, since this was recorded a year ago. Shouting you guys out. Thank you so much for your support.
If you want a shout out like that in the future, hit that join button down below on youtube.com. Thank you so much for your support, by the way, because you guys really make this a little bit more possible than it could be. Do you have anything else to add, Carson?
No, I appreciate it. Appreciate you indulging me with all the storytelling. I'm like the old guy on the porch that'll just keep talking, So,
well, I mean, come on. Thank you so much. I mean, your stories are amazing, and I mean, I'm just glad I got a lot of that story here for people and fans of the Deora 2 and Twin Mill especially. I think they're really going to love that. And, of course, Snake and Mongoose, too. I mean, it's so magical. You talked about it. It's a circle. Wisdom is a circle, Dr. Tesla. That's in Acceleracers. There you go. And,
Yep.
well, with that, sincerely again, thank you again. And in the words of Vert Wheeler, I'm out of here. Bye, guys. See y'all later. Peace out.
Thanks for having me.
This has been the Squared Corner Podcast. Music composed by Steve Rocket. Video and audio recording by Riverside.fm. Video and audio editing by JayCee Squared. Logo art by Miguel Martinez. And lastly, supported by you, the viewer. Thank you.